and welcome into a special edition of the AFC West Roundtable, episode 2, schedules. We are all your co-hosts. I am Corey.
I am Austin.
We have Tim. If you guys want to go ahead and just introduce yourselves, because I know you guys are streaming on your channels as well.
Yeah, it's Tim here from Answer the Call podcast.
And I'm Cody with Drew Code Sports Talk.
And I'm Matt with Orange Crush News 365.
Woo!
And welcome in to the AFC West Roundtable.
Rolling out. Looking for the rookie record. Ball tip. And oh my gosh. The double deflection. Set up the screen. Instead he'll float it over the middle. Just ball and it's Bowers. Down the sideline. The rookie from Georgia with the game's first score. Mahomes. Touchdown. Mahomes.
All right, boys. I had mentioned to you guys today, it was kind of just a wild hair, came to me. We need a sponsor for this show. We need a sponsor for our AFC West Roundtable. How awesome would that be to have the AFC West Roundtable brought to you by, blank, or the AFC West Roundtable powered by. So viewers or people who are watching live, or if you're coming back and watching us recorded, if you're a sponsor and you're looking for a show, I promise you this is episode 2, but we're going throughout the whole season, quarterly, maybe even some special episodes like today. But we want sponsors for this show. Help us out. Bring them to us. Boys, you guys anything to add to that?
Yeah, if you're looking for your new favorite football podcast, AFC West Roundtable is definitely the show for you, and I promise it will not disappoint. As you can see, we all represent a team from the AFC West, and it will show you our true passion.
Cody, you want to answer this one? I heard about this, but I didn't know it was actually a thing.
I'm going to be completely honest. I actually forgot that they were doing a biopic of John Madden, and I'm not upset with Nick Cage playing John Madden. He actually doesn't look too terrible. I mean, what's funny is Christian Bale looks a lot like Al Davis, kind of scary like Al Davis. So I'm actually kind of curious to see this biopic.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I'll have to look more into that. I actually, again, like I said, I heard kind of like a smidge of it, not enough to go like, oh, what the heck? So I'll have to look into that. That's kind of cool though. And obviously Madden's a huge part of our lives. Between us, we grew up, I mean, maybe you guys as well, but we grew up obviously playing Madden football, watching highlights of Madden on the sideline and whatnot there. So that's something we'll definitely look into and kind of go from there. So let's talk about what we're here for tonight. Schedules came out last night. Okay, we got a lot of good matchups. All right, between all of our teams, really good matchups, not just in division, but AFC West is playing the NFC East this year, and sprinkled in, obviously, with the extra game. You have a super flex game, I guess, what some would call it. So let's start first with Timmy's Chargers. I'll pull this up.
Woohoo!
Right there. So you got it's just kind of, it's a good schedule, and I think it's favorable. So, Tim, I'll go ahead and let you go and kind of give us your early initial thoughts on Chargers.
All right, so obviously, as a fan, we're all excited for week 1, okay? It doesn't matter what team it is, whether it's a team from the AFC West or any other random team in the NFL, everybody's excited for week 1. I'm especially excited for week 1. It's versus a division rival, versus the AFC West defending champs for the past however many years. And I got to say, I'm also excited because this game is in Brazil. So I'm really kind of curious because if you guys remember last year, it kind of wasn't really the best field, and there was a lot of talk of how they shouldn't even come back. And the NFL decided to come back for another year. So I'm really excited. Chargers kick off week 1 in Brazil versus the defending AFC West champs. And what better way to get the season started than beating the Kansas City Chiefs over in Brazil? So this game I am super pumped for. I'm super excited. I know, Austin, you're probably have some words over there that you would like to share. But I'm telling you, I think this is a big game for Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers. They need to come in and really establish what they want, and that is the run game, and prove that they can contend in the AFC West and in the AFC to try to go for a Super Bowl. So that one is actually kind of my most excited for among the Chargers. Now, I will say I'm really kind of excited to see how Jim Harbaugh does after a bye week versus the Raiders. So week 13 is kind of another one. But the other games that I'm really just like Eagles Monday night, week 14, the defending Super Bowl champs on a primetime game. So, you have the Chiefs and Eagles who were both in the Super Bowl, both primetime games, because the Brazil game will be on YouTube for the first time ever. But I'm also really excited for Chiefs at Arrowhead, because it's division rival and it's at Arrowhead. So, that game is always a good one. And then at Broncos in week 18, because it's the last game of the season, it could be playoff implications on the line. So, but a surprise one for me real quick is week 6, the Miami Dolphins. There's been talk that the Chargers should have drafted or, should have tried to trade up to draft Tua instead of drafting Justin Herbert. And I think this is where the critics get silenced. Justin Herbert's going to come in and light the stat sheet up. So, Austin, I know you're dying to say something about week 1.
No, it's not even about week 1.
And before we get to this real quick, because we don't know where this is about to go, we don't. Those of you that didn't get a chance to see the first episode of the AFC West Roundtable, my brother here and Timmy had a nice heart-to-heart a couple times. So that's all it is. So we'll just throw it out there. It's a heart-to-heart. There's no ill will towards each other. They love it. It's fun. And that's kind of what we're building this show off of. So if you're watching this for your first time and you're thinking, holy cow, we promise it's fun, and just give it a chance, and you'll see that it's really not as bad as what it's going to probably sound like.
Hey, I'm just going to call my shot right now. The Chargers are going to go 3-1 in their first 4. They're going to beat Kansas City. They're going to, sorry, Cody, they're going to smash the Raiders. They're going to get beat by the Broncos, and then they're going to smash the Giants.
Tim, I already said that the Chargers were most poised to dethrone the Chiefs. Don't make me start rooting for the Chargers' downfall, because that means I would have to root for the Chiefs as well. Don't make me do it, Tim.
And because your attitude, remember last episode, I took 2 wins away just based on I didn't like your tone there for a minute. So Cody sounds like he's heading that way as well.
Hey, it's okay. Like, you guys can hate on the team all you want, because at the end of the day, the Chargers are going to be in the playoffs, and they're going to have a strong AFC West showing, and I'm excited for this season. So,
yeah, that's weird that you said you had them going 3-1, because my question that I was going to ask even before you said that was, how do you feel about the Chargers starting 0-3?
No, they're not going 0-3.
It's a high probability, my friend.
Not even a chance, bro.
0-3. You might get the Giants, but then you're going to lose to the Commanders. So let's really, how do you feel about 1-4?
It'll be 3-2. Like, we'll lose to the Broncos and we'll lose to the Commanders, but the other 3, I think we got.
So you're saying that you guys would have a loss against the Giants and possibly the Commanders, but not
Broncos,
your division rivals.
Broncos and Commanders.
Got it. I see you're putting a little respect on the Broncos name. That's interesting, because you should hope that you don't go 0-3. There's a high probability for that, Tim.
No,
I think that realistically, there's a high probability of 1-2, right? Of Chiefs Broncos.
Okay.
And then a slight probability of the Raiders.
And I told him when the schedule came out, I was like, damn, I wonder how Timmy's feeling about opening with the Chiefs, and then the Broncos are not too far away from that as well. So it's like, that's two pretty big games right there in the first quarter of your season that, you can say that that's probably a key part of your guys' season, right? Like,
Yeah, you get a
it's
chance to
not
set the
baseball.
tone.
It's not baseball,
So-
right? Like, there's not 162 of these. You have, like, with baseball, you can get by with the bad start to the season, but here, like, if you literally don't do well in that first quarter of the season, it's going to make it a tough climb in the back end, right? Or even get to that second quarter of your season, right? So you always break it into quarters, and you always, Sean Payton talks about it all the time. Matt, you may be able to help out a little bit with Sean Payton always talks about the quarters, right? So this, and this. That first quarter, I would, and I may be wrong, but I would say that is absolutely probably the biggest part of the Chargers season right there. Do you agree?
I would definitely agree, especially because, I brought it up on the last show. The Chargers struggled being consistent. Like, they would have a great first half and then fall apart the second, or vice versa. So, yeah, it all matters, especially in the fourth quarter. That's where everything really matters. Doesn't matter what you do in it does matter what you do first, second, and third quarter, but the fourth quarter, like, if you can't hold on to the lead in the final minutes of the fourth quarter, that's it. So, and in your case, it would just be, can Justin Herbert stay healthy for any of those quarters?
Tim? Oh, I think he's adjusting something. So, yeah, again, I'll say that, again, I think that's the biggest part of their season is that first quarter of the season. And I'll throw it back up here real quick for everyone to see. I mean, there is a little bit of a stretch in there, right? Like, you don't know what you're going to get. I think that Steelers game there could be big. In the Jags before the bye week. And then coming out, you have the Raiders, Eagles, Chiefs, Cowboys. That could be a very
But
important
even look at their
stretch.
final four of the season, like Chiefs, Cowboys, Texans, Broncos. Like, they got a couple tough 4-game stretches on their schedule, and I think you nailed it, Corey, on that first quarter. Like, you kind of, I don't want to say define your season, but like, you kind of set the tone on your season, how you do those first few weeks, right? And for the Chargers, those first few weeks against division foes, you'll know a lot about honestly, you'll know a lot about the AFC West after those first 3 weeks, just plain and simple. It'll be a very big first quarter of the season for the AFC West.
Hey, sorry guys, I'm not really sure what was said there for a few minutes. I lost audio and camera. So real quick, I want to point out that the Chargers do have the 12th hardest schedule in the NFL. So, and Chiefs have the 11th.
Yeah, I saw that as well.
Is that a baked-in excuse if you guys don't make the playoffs?
We're not going to miss the playoffs, so.
I don't know if 8 and 9 get you in, Timmy. I don't know.
8 and 9.
So,
Okay.
So let's ask this then. So, like, Timmy, you made your prediction on what you thought on the first episode, right?
Mhm.
After seeing the schedule and how it plays out, are you sticking, or are you kind of adjusting what it was, like, more or less?
No, I think it's really similar. And looking at the schedule, I think once the first half of the season gets underway, I think the Chargers can go and get on a run, kind of right there in the middle. They got the at Dolphins, Colts, Vikings, at Titans. So that's a nice little 4-game stretch, kind of after that rough 5 weeks, that I think that they can really kind of bounce back from, because they're going to need it, because week 14, week 15, Eagles, at Chiefs, and then at Broncos week 18. I think they beat the Cowboys, and they're going to beat the Texans. So just that middle part of that schedule is going to be really key. I mean, they're going to really need to stack up those wins against those lesser opponents like the Titans and all them. So,
And then, Cody, you said last episode that the Chargers could be the ones who dethrone the Chiefs. After seeing the schedule layout, are you sticking with that?
I think what makes this difficult is just like what you pointed out, Corey, is the first 4 games of this schedule for the Chargers is really going to dictate how the rest of the season for them is going to go. I mean, you want to talk about challenging that offensive line that, they assign Becton that we talked about. They also have Joe Alt and the other players that we've talked about, on the first episode. They're going to have a front against the Chiefs. Say what you want about the Raiders, but they're also known to get after you. and also the Broncos defense, and now the Giants with Abdul Carter and that defensive front. So the Chargers are really going to have to figure out if that offensive line is built for the rest of the season and hopefully stay injured as well, because these are some tough games. I am kind of concerned with the last 4 games, though. They only have one home game for the final 4 weeks of the season. That home game is against the Texans, who they actually might have an improved team based off of how they did in the draft and that defense as well. So I still think that in terms of like a team built today, because again, we haven't had a snap of football yet, so we really don't know what either of our teams are like right now. But what I would say is I am concerned with the schedule from the start of it and at least the final 4 games in terms of like, can the Chargers, if they do hold a lead in the division, can they carry that and also put wins together against good quality teams like the Eagles, like the Chiefs, Cowboys? We don't know what they're going to look like, but like the Texans, and on the road against the Broncos to end the season, can they pull out a win if they need it? So I still think that this team is still in the running to dethrone the Chiefs, but looking at the schedule, at least for the first 4 games and the last 4 games, that's where it's like a make or break. Can the Chargers not Chargers, so to speak, and can they actually, in the games, can they seal it? Can they carry on and make the playoffs in that fashion? Because this is a pretty tough schedule looking at it, and a lot of teams on here, like Dolphins, I don't think got better, but maybe the Jaguars are improved with Travis Hunter. My Raiders, I will say, have improved, so it's not going to be an easy rollover game. Commanders are a tough team. So Chargers just have a lot of competition that they're going to have to prove that they are on that level, if not better.
I like it.
Did we lose you?
I think we lost the host there for
Sorry
a minute.
about that. I think we're having a little bit of technical difficulties. No, I think we're still here, but we are a little bit of technical difficulties. I think we're okay. Those are good points. Yep, I think we're back.
Kinda. You're kind of back.
Cutting in and out, so I apologize for that. I think we got it fixed. We'll see. Thank you guys for carrying it along. Moving on, anyone else, do you have anything on the Chargers before we move on?
Are you good, Matt?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, so was we going Chiefs next?
Yeah, let's go to the Chief next. Tim, you want to start that topic?
Yeah, I mean, while they come back, like I said, week 1, Chiefs Chargers, prime time matchup. It's going to be a really good game. Andy Reid has all summer to prepare for this game, and we know how Andy Reid is when he has extra time. And I got to say that there are a couple other ones that I'm excited about, and that is week 5 at the Jags. I don't know why, but I'm just really intrigued. I guess, the Travis Hunter being on the Jags, I want to see how that matchup fares out. But week 9 at the Bills, Bills, they tend to win in the regular season and then lose to the Chiefs in the postseason. Maybe the Bills need to just go ahead and lay down and take a L, and maybe their luck will change in the playoffs. Now, the other game that I have that I'm kind of excited about is week 11 at the Broncos. Division rival, going to Denver, but Andy Reid's coming off of a bye, and we all know Andy Reid off of a bye, historically speaking, is amazing. So that one is one of the games I'm going to pencil in that I'm excited. I can't wait to watch because, division rival, Sean Payton versus Andy Reid. I mean, that's going to be instant classic anyway, but it's Andy Reid coming off of a bye and the Broncos game right before their bye. So those are a few of the games that I have that I'm excited about to see this upcoming season for the Chiefs.
Awesome. Austin, are you with us?
I am. Well, I think so.
All right.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. You want to give us your thoughts on the Chiefs, and then Matt, you want to follow up?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, so clearly want to state that the Chiefs are going to absolutely dominate week 1. Just want to make sure we get that out there. It's going to be, I'm seeing like a 34-17 type game.
Wow.
Not a chance.
There's always a chance.
This is Brazil. Yeah, that's a.
But it's
outrageous
one of
score.
those. We've had some receiver issues, and we've definitely addressed that. So if we go into the season and we have Rashee Rice, Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, Jalen Royals, Travis Kelce, like if we don't lose any in the postseason, I think you're gonna see maybe not quite the old Chiefs offense, but something closer to it. And we talked about after the Chargers draft, still not quite sold on the young secondary, right? Tarheeb still, he did fantastic, but he had, Sante Samuel, he had Kristen Fulton. He didn't kind of have to be that guy. Now he is. So still not quite sold on that yet. Other than that, I think the Chiefs' schedule is really hard. I actually see about 4 or 5 high potential L's. I mean, you got Eagles, Commanders, Lions. I mean, there's just a lot of teams on there where they could really go either way, where you're not confident saying I like a Chiefs win. I think I don't remember. I think I had them at 10 or 11 wins, 12 wins, the Chiefs. And I'm actually kind of on the
I want to
fence
say you
with
had him
that.
at 12 wins.
Did I? Yeah, I'm gonna take that in more like the 10 to 12 range. There's a lot of games on here, right? Like we've mentioned it, the teams have caught up to the Chiefs. I still think the Chiefs are a really good team, but I don't think you're going to be able to just sweep a season series with like the Eagles, Lions, Command. Like that's just the Bills. That's just not how it works, right? So I think we just handle the AFC West teams like we always do. We'll get enough wins against the other ones to still be there in the end, but I don't think you're going to see a 15-win season. That's for sure.
What are you going
All right.
to do when they start 0-2?
I'll be fine.
All right, Matt.
Yeah, so that first week, the Chiefs could potentially go 2-2 just because you have 2 good teams in that week. I mean, luckily you're at home. Ceiling, I say them going 3-1. I mean, Philly's just a good team, and it really depends on how your run defense is going to stop Saquon. I mean, that's just a hard guy to stop, and the Chiefs' run defense kind of like started to falter near the back end of the season. So now to welcome Saquon to KC, that's going to be an interesting game. But I think Philly's going to take it. I think they're going to steal a win on the road. Baltimore and KC is always a good matchup, but Lamar just does not, for some reason, he just doesn't do well in Kansas City. So I'm gonna have the Chiefs going 3-1 that first stretch of games. But yeah, looking at their record, I mean, a lot of tough teams. I mean, luckily you're at home for them, with Philly, Detroit, Washington, Baltimore, even Denver might sneak up on you there. So, I mean, I can see a good 5, maybe 6 losses on there, like you said, like I'm not comfortable saying like, oh, they're guaranteed to win because they're at home. These are some tough teams. It's a tough schedule. But yeah, this is where, like you said, teams are catching up to the Chiefs, and it's all going to be a matter of like how they're going to prepare for everyone. Andy Reid is very good at preparing for these teams, but yeah, I see you going 3-1, possibly 3-2 in that first stretch of games there.
Yeah, and I want to point out we're not really mentioning them at all, but I still think the Giants are going to be a sneaky matchup. I think just with a decent quarterback play, like they have weapons. And we know their defense is rock solid, then it only got better. We have to see how it all comes together for them, but I do think that they may not be the just like cakewalk matchup. Like they might be a sneaky decent matchup for teams this year. Now I still think the Chiefs can beat them, but that's one of those kind of sneak in there games because it might be one they're overlooking or something. And if the Giants are good enough with good enough quarterback play, that could be one of those what the hell games for the Chiefs.
Yeah, and I guess I still see Andy Reid as the coach. I still see Patrick Mahomes as the quarterback. I still think that they had a pretty good draft. Now they still have holes, but again, I go back to what I was talking about towards the middle of the postseason, essentially, where the better example is when the Broncos were in Kansas City. Bo Nix did everything he could to win that game. Did everything right. Chiefs are a championship team. They found a way to win, even if it was a blocked kick, right? There's just a champion mentality there, championship mentality. Yes, I see the Bills on the schedule, the Ravens on the schedule. The Chiefs still aren't scared of those guys. They're still not scared of the teams. Those teams they're still not caught up to the Chiefs quite yet. I know the Bills typically play the Chiefs better in the regular season than they do the postseason. Yeah, they're closing the gap a little bit. But did Buffalo really get better in the offseason? Did they get better enough to be able to say that they could beat the Chiefs? My opinion, no. The Ravens, maybe. Which Lamar Jackson are you going to get, right? Like they were, like a half a foot shoe size away from losing last year. But it doesn't matter. They still found a way to win. I still don't like the game plan where Baltimore uses against Kansas City. So again, until I see these teams actually play the Chiefs the right way instead of playing scared and going against what they typically do, I'm still going to give the edge to the Chiefs. And I still do think the Chiefs get 13 wins. I still look at that schedule and I still see, these Chiefs aren't scared of these teams. These teams are still a little worried about the Chiefs just based on who the personnel still is. They still see Andy Reid on the sideline. They still see Patrick Mahomes as the quarterback. They still see Chris Jones on defense. So that's kind of my take, and I'll open that to you guys. Timmy, do you have anything on that?
Chiefs have like the 11th hardest schedule right in front of the Chargers. They actually have the same. The AFC West as a whole are in the top first half of strength of schedule. I mean, I was looking at it. Even the Raiders are at like 16th, so they're right there in the middle. This is going to be a fun, exciting season. Baltimore and Buffalo are those two teams that is just really weird because I feel like Lamar does seem to struggle against Steve Spagnuolo and his defense. And then, like I was saying earlier, and Buffalo tends to beat Kansas City in the regular season and then flop in the playoffs against them. And, there's a reason that the Chiefs have won 3 Super Bowls with Andy Reid as a head coach, and why basically the AFC has ran through Kansas City all these years in the AFC Championship is because Kansas City wins the games that matter. Not, they don't care about the regular season, and, they're not going to be the flashiest team, and they're not going to excite you. They're a boring team, but they win football games, and that's all that matters. And, Chiefs, my hat's off to him. I do respect Andy Reid. I think he is arguably one of the greatest coaches of all time. And Patrick Mahomes is a great quarterback. And I was one of those guys that doubted Mahomes coming out of college. And so to have him sit here and shine bright at the biggest stage, it's kind of a humbling moment when you're sitting there saying that a player isn't going to be good because of the system he played in, and then he goes to the best coach possible, and they're over there winning Super Bowls. I think Kansas City still wins the AFC West like we were talking about on the first episode. I think it's going to be really close, though. It could be like end up being like a tiebreaker. So these games, I don't know. The back half is pretty favorable, I think, for the Chiefs. You get past week 11, then they got the Colts at Cowboys on Thanksgiving, Texans. Chargers are, it's a home game for the Chiefs, but the Chargers do play them very well. At Titans, and then the last 2 weeks is, division games. So anything can happen. The Chiefs are still in the driver's seat at the moment, so we'll see at the quarter mark how our teams are doing and these predictions are going.
Yeah, Cody, you got anything on that?
The only thing I'll add is very similar to like when we were looking at the Chargers schedule is the NFL has set up basically to see where the Chiefs are at in terms of like their weakest point that we have of them going into the regular season is probably that offensive line is not as strong as it needs to be. And a lot of these teams have fronts that can get after that offensive line. So it's really going to challenge the Chiefs to see, like, do they have the offensive pieces to bail themselves out? Can they get the run game going with the offensive line as constructed? I trust that their defense will bend and don't break. I tried making this point on another show a while ago, which is when the Chiefs have a lead, their defense really does a great job at protecting that lead, and they don't really give up a lot of points outside of that. And really, the offense can be explosive enough to, to put points up in order to catch up if they're in a deficit. But 9 out of 10 times, what the Chiefs normally do is they run down the field as much as they can to score repetitively, lean on the defense to take away maybe the deep side of the field because, you're behind. So they know that you need to throw the ball down the field and you're not going to go outside your normal game plan. With these teams, though, even the Chargers, even the Eagles, the Giants, and even Baltimore, these defenses are really going to push this offense of the Chiefs if they could protect Mahomes. If, Travis Kelce can be that security blanket as he was before. Is Xavier Worthy? Can he take the top off the secondary of some of these teams that we can all agree on paper have improved? Then again, same thing with the Chiefs. Their team, we see them coming in with a weakness, but we actually don't know. Maybe it's their strength. So I think the Chiefs, in a very similar way, their first 5 weeks are going to see like how the rest of the season will go. I don't know if they're going to start like 4-0 or 4-1. They might, but I think a lot of last season where they won by one possession games, some will say officiating. I'm going to just say coaching. How often that happens, repetitively is very rare. And I'll even point to when Minnesota was like 8-0 against one possession games. The following year, they were below 500 when it came to one possession games. I think the Chiefs will come down to earth a little bit. I still think about 11 games, but they're going to fight for each and every single one of those 11 wins. And that's why, like when we had our first episode, I was saying the Chargers, are the team that is most likely to be dethroned just because I think they can keep pace. And if it comes to tiebreakers, maybe the Chargers can steal a game. But ultimately, I think the Chargers have a schedule where it might favor them a little bit more than the Chiefs just because this first half of the schedule for the Chiefs is a pretty difficult one. Because even if we round week 5, 6, you got to go to you're going to play in Kansas City, but against Detroit. Then you got the Raiders, and then you got the Commanders. So that 3-game stretch, and we'll consider Jacksonville a bye, but even the following 3 games from that are going to be very difficult just in general. So how will they look leading up to that Buffalo game week 9? So I think they have a little bit of some ground to make up if I'm looking at the schedule and just as we know things today.
Yeah, and I think, and I'll pull the schedule back up here real quick because I still think, yes, Jacksonville could be a bye, but these are the games that, and even the Giants, like Cowboys, Titans, like these are the games you can't lose those games. I think you hurt yourself if you lose one of those games. It's kind of like the baseball reference, right? Like you beat up on the teams in your division that you're supposed to. Like for the Royals, take care of the White Sox. That's the team. For the Giants, beat the Rockies. So like here for the Chiefs, take care of those teams that you're supposed to beat, right? Like, yeah, they do have a loaded schedule in certain aspects of it, but you still have those teams. You can't afford to lose a game like that because then it's going to start putting, confidence into these other teams. They're going to put that on film, and then they're going to start seeing things. Because, yes, everyone can say that Philly has the blueprint. There's no one in the NFL that has a defensive line like Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, they can put the blueprint out all they want. Do you have the front that can take care of that offensive line? Mm-hmm. Some of those teams, I'm going to say no. The Titans, they have a pretty good defense, but I don't think their defensive line is going to be good enough to do that. So do you have any other kind of thoughts on that?
Yeah. Just to make sure that we got the Chiefs smashing week 1. Just to show that I'm not a Chargers hater, I actually think we split with Las Vegas this year. We're gonna sweep the Chargers. That's
okay.
Hey, fun fact: you guys swept the Chargers last season. I don't know if anyone knew that or not, but
we usually do really well against the AFC West opponents. Like what Corey was saying, we usually take care of the teams we're supposed to. In the last few years, the AFC West has been those teams, right? Like we can say what we want, but AFC West outside of the Chiefs have been kind of down recently. I am well aware it's better this year and getting better. I know I picked Denver to win the division, and after seeing the schedules, I'm actually really confident in sticking with Denver winning the division.
Yeah. A guy I listen to on the radio frequently on my drive in beautiful St. Louis traffic every day, he refers to certain parts of the schedules as America's booty call. and there are teams in the NFL that are still America's booty call. So he said that one day, and I was like, that's stuck. So Jay Binkley is a Kansas City sports radio host. Hats off to him for giving me. I'm stealing it from him, but he does get the credit for America's booty calls. So speaking of, I don't think you guys are the booty calls anymore, the Raiders. So let's pull up their schedule. And I mean, Cody, you're the Raiders fan, so we're gonna go ahead and give you the floor, and you can start with the Raiders.
So I think there's 3 games that I'm really looking forward to as I'm seeing the schedule. I mean, low-hanging fruit would be week 1 against the New England Patriots, going up against our old head coach as the new OC for the Patriots. And of course, Tom Brady, now minority owner with the Raiders, going back to New England to, hopefully get a victory in Foxborough. So I'm looking at that game, but that's not one of my 3. Honestly, week 2 against the Chargers, I'm really looking forward to, because not only is that a home game for the Raiders on Monday Night Football, anytime the Chargers and Raiders play, it's always electric. So I'm really looking forward to that. And in Las Vegas, at least, I'm hoping that Raider Nation finally shows out, because I'm sick and tired of seeing Allegiant Stadium looking like a visitor stadium when we're there, because everybody else buys tickets to go see their team, and it's not filled with black and gold or black and silver. Excuse me. It's usually with another team's colors. But another reason why I'm looking forward to the Chargers is because I really want to see that Jim Harbaugh and Pete Carroll rivalry. I want to see, truthfully, where we stack up with some AFC West teams. And I think a good barometer would be starting with the Chargers. I felt like when we went against the Chargers in week 1 last year, and that was, of course, with AP and Gardner Minshew, and I think at the time we had Devontae Adams on the team.
Booger picking Minshew.
Yeah. But I thought we were I thought we were a good enough team to beat the Chargers then. Of course, we just couldn't outlast the run game that the Chargers did. So I love to see what our defense can do now against the Chargers. I want to see how our offensive line does against their front, and I'd love to see how Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly's offense looks like now. So that would be a game. And then this is kind of more for me than anything else, but I'm actually really looking forward to week 11's Cowboy game, because I'm not a Cowboys fan. So shout out to Michael, who is the president of Boom Broadcasting. I'm a good friend of his, and he's a diehard Cowboys fan. So I cannot wait to send him text about, did you see that play? And, tease him about that. So that's more for me. But if I'm looking at this schedule, though, I mean, I'm not trying to say that the Raiders have a good shot to being above 500. I think they do. Kind of favors them a little bit. Some of the teams, though, towards the latter part of the season, I'm concerned with. Like, obviously, we have basically a divisional run where we go against the Chargers in week 13. 14 is the Broncos. Then we have to go to Philadelphia for week 15. And then we go Texans, Giants, and we end the season in Kansas City at home. But I feel like that those last 6 games are really going to see, can the Raiders get above 500? Are we in a wild card race? Because we're really going to know who we are around week 11, a week 12. We're going to know what kind of football team we are. If we're even going to be competitive, are we going to be a team that's really pushing for a wild card within the AFC? Are we even competitive in our own division? I think by then is what I'm looking forward to. And, obviously there's some NFC North games that I'm looking forward to that all of our teams respectively have been scheduled against, and some teams from the East. But I think ultimately what I'm excited for is I actually just want to see where our Raiders stack up against the division. I want to see where they look like against the top NFC teams. I want to see if an actual functioning football coach like Pete Carroll can make a difference with the roster that we had, because I feel like our roster's done pretty well. We just need the right leadership, and I want to see, and I want to be proven right that this leadership is the one that's going to help progress the Raiders. So that's my take on the Raiders schedule.
Yeah, and I think I'm kind of disappointed no one else. I mean, you basically get a second home game when you go to the Chargers, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, and that's, again, I'm not taking any. It's just the truth, right? Like, I remember the Chargers Broncos game last year. I think it was the flex game to Thursday night, and there was a ton of orange in that stadium. So again, I know, Cody, you had mentioned the same thing for Allegiant. I know that even watching the Chiefs game when they were playing at Vegas, there's a ton of red in there too. So it's like, I get it. It sucks because it's like you guys are fans, but at the same time, it's like you turn on the games on Sundays and you're seeing your home. It's supposed to be a home game.
Yeah.
But you have teams that are using the silent count in their own stadium because the crowd is shifted. And it's so, again, I don't understand that because obviously with Denver and Kansas City and even some of these others, I mean, it's not an issue everywhere, but there are teams that it's not really a home game, even though they are in their own building.
So I think what it kind of boils down to, it's not really, that the Chargers fans don't show up or the Raiders fans doesn't show up. It's just you look at Vegas, it's a very big tourist attraction. LA, there's people all across the world going to LA, going to Vegas. And so, maybe some of these international fans are over in LA or in Las Vegas during these games. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to go to that, but I'm a fan of the opposing team. Oh, I'm going to go anyway. And I think that's why we see a lot of teams, like fan bases in LA, in Las Vegas, is because there's fans all over the world in those two cities. It's not like Kansas City where it's like Kansas City, like most people don't even know where Kansas City, Missouri is. So everybody knows where Los Angeles is. Everybody has heard of Las Vegas. So maybe people haven't heard of, Kansas City or Denver. I mean, those are bad examples, but you know what I'm saying is it's not a bigger city like LA and Las Vegas. So with people all over the world.
Matt, what's your take on the Raiders schedule?
Yeah, so I'm actually really looking forward to their home opener against the Patriots because now you got two teams, two new head coaches, a new quarterback for the Raiders, a young quarterback for the Patriots. They're going to test each other out, and that's going to be an exciting matchup to watch. I know a lot of people are going to look at that schedule or look at that game and be like, oh, that game sucks. That game's going to suck. I'm not going to watch it. But I think it's going to be a very entertaining game. I think it's going to be a very entertaining season for the Raiders. I still have them going 8-9, but I really feel like Pete Carroll, Austin said it best last episode, Pete Carroll can revitalize a dead horse, So that's what I think you're going to see in this season. Pulling up the schedule again, there's going to be some tough games for them, especially because they're still it's a new team as well. So everyone's trying to figure each other out and develop that chemistry. But, there's a lot of winnable games on there for them. I think they could put up a good fight against the Colts. The Bears, that's going to be a tough matchup with Ben Johnson and what he's done with the Bears. But that's a winnable game for them with Pete Carroll and Geno Smith at the helm. The Titans game, that's going to be a fun matchup to watch as well. I think they will be able to take care of the Cowboys. So I think they are. They're going to surprise a lot of people, as much as I hate to say it, Again, Cody, the problem is the Raiders fans are just the Marines. They're the few and the proud. That's why your stadium is always other teams' fans. It's not your fault. It's just not many of you.
What's difficult is the fan base is more or less in California, like Oakland. Yeah. Obviously, you walk down the streets of Oakland, and even in other parts of California, you're going to see a Raiders hat. You're probably going to see some Charger hats. No offense, Tim. There's not a whole lot of them that I see nowadays, but a lot of Cowboy hats or Raider hats. And so moving them to Vegas, you're trying to then have your California fan base up and move over there as well, which is difficult because they all can't do that. So anytime, and again, when SoFi Stadium, whenever we go there, a lot of Raider fans from the LA area and all around the California area get a chance to essentially go see the Raiders play because not a lot of them can go to Vegas because, again, to Tim's credit and his point, it's a tourist attraction. So tourists from all over the world are going to flock to Vegas, which is what was intended for. It's unfortunate, though, there's just not a larger, deeper presence of Raider Nation in Vegas quite yet because, I mean, a lot of them are in California still trying to get to these games. And a lot of the time, too, these tickets are super expensive. And even when you buy them, you see a lot of resale. And when they're being resold, they're normally being resold to the team that we're not trying to resell it to. But, I get it. You're reselling tickets to make a profit, and it is what it is, which, Jerry Jones and Cowboy Stadium have the same problem. Like, it seems like their stadium is always inundated with the opposing team's players or fans, I should say.
Well, that's just because the Cowboys suck, but.
I agree. I just wanted to call you the few and the proud again because I think it's funny. But
that's funny.
Yeah. But no, I do see you guys beating the Browns. I can see you putting up a fight against the Texans because of their offensive line and Max Crosby, if he's healthy, I can see him being a nightmare. So the Raiders are going to surprise a lot of people. I still have them going 8-9. It's a difficult schedule for them, but nothing that I don't think they can handle. I did see the question, Denver getting the sweep. We'll get to that when we get to Denver's schedule. but it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun for them.
Yeah, and I'm going to put the schedule up real quick because we've been talking about kind of stretches of a schedule for each of these teams. I'm looking at that. So after the Browns, you go Chargers, Broncos, Eagles, Texans. There's your quarter. That's the quarter part of the season that you're talking about. Of you got to steal at least one, if not two, of those games. I think. I think if you're able to, and again, that's so far into the season, we don't know exactly where you're going to be at record wise. But if there's an important stretch to that, let's say they come in and they're hovering around 500, right? That 4-game stretch right there, I think if you can steal 1 to 2 of those, you're kind of setting yourself up. Because I mean, it sucks that you got the Giants, cool, but then you got that Chiefs game there at the end. So that's the
we'll be resting starters for you guys.
That's
yeah.
That's the quarter.
The week 18 gimme.
Yeah. So do you agree or disagree that could be kind of the key stretch of the Raiders schedule, Cody?
No, I completely agree. And to my earlier, when I was kind of diving into the schedule, coming into like week, after week 12 against the Browns, going into week 13 to week 18, that 6-game stretch is really what into, capitalize on your point, is going to make or break the Raiders. We're either going to figure out if we're a playoff team or if we're just going to wilt under the pressure, because we got 2 back-to-back divisional teams, 1 on the road, 1 at home. We then go back on the road to go against the defending Super Bowl champions, stay on the road to go against a potential AFC threat in the Texans. And I know people are sleeping on the Giants because we really don't know what they look like on the field. I'm going to give them a little bit more respect and say they're going to be a better football team this year than they were last year. And again, we also don't know where the Chiefs are landing during week 18. They might be fighting for a wild card as well. So, to Austin's credit, I know that normally week 18 is when the Chiefs would rest starters if they clinch a playoff. But if they're not clinched, then that's a dogfight between the Raiders and the Chiefs at the very end of the game, at the very end of the season as well. So to just continue on your point, Corey, those final 6 games will determine whether or not the Raiders are going to get in the playoffs or not, in my opinion. Like, if Matt is saying that we're an 8-9 team, that 8-9 is going to be because that final 6 is going to determine, are we going to getting over everybody or are we faltering and going backwards?
So and you always talk about not getting your hopes up, right? Like that's kind of your thing with the Raiders. Give us your initial thoughts when you look at this schedule. Are your hopes up, or are you going to stay even keel of like, hey, anything can happen. We want to see more competitiveness out of these guys.
Yeah. So it's more or less of, I want to see a functioning football team go out on the field. Thank you, Piano Man, too, by the way. I want to see a functioning football team, like well coached, not shooting themselves in the foot. And so when I look at the schedule, I see, okay, we're going against the Commanders, a top team in the NFC. We're going against the Bears, an up-and-coming team in the NFC. I want that challenge. And, for as much conversation as we're having, 3 out of these 4 teams are a potential playoff team. I'm going to completely acknowledge my Raiders aren't there quite yet, but I want to see how far are we from you guys. Are we able to even keep up with you guys? And if so, then that means every single game is a 50-50 coin toss from here on out. It's no longer like, oh, it's a rollover win because the Chargers are going to mop the floor with the Raiders, or the Broncos are going to, mop the floor with the Raiders like it was last season. This season, I want to see a ball club that's going to come out there and actually give a fighting chance and be in the games to maybe even win. So I do find some excitement because this is an offseason where we had a relatively good draft. We have a good head coach. Do we have pieces around our team that I want better that haven't been addressed? Yes, but I think this team with the coaching staff of Pete Carroll and all the other rest of it, I think is like a really good being optimistic about what we're going to look like on the football field, which is what I'm feeling. Is I actually want to see how good we are compared to the defending Super Bowl champions. I want to see how we match up against, the Broncos at their best and the Chargers and the Chiefs. I want to see where we are because that'll tell me if we're on the right path in the future, or do I need to worry about another 20 years of despair? So that's my feelings on it.
You had the Raiders as a sleeper playoff team last episode. Are you still there?
Yeah, I actually kind of like a majority of their schedule. Matt was spot on with that Raiders Patriots game. That was going to be one of my games I was actually kind of excited to watch because I think that's 2 franchises who I don't want to say franchise in general with the Patriots because they are coming off a pretty good dynasty run. But more recent than that, those are two franchises who have kind of been sad for a little bit. And now there's a little hope, right? Like Patriots got a good coach. Raiders got a good coach. There's a little talent on the team. There's some foundation. I think that was going to be one of my big games, Matt. So I'm kind of sad you pointed that out, but I'm excited to watch that game. It's too good. It's a good game for each of them to kind of gauge where you're at right now in your process, right? Is it going to be a good game? Are the Patriots going to roll over like they do? Are the Raiders going to roll over? Or is this going to look like a nice functional football game, which is really what those two teams are looking for first, right? That's kind of the next step on where they need to go. Do we look like a functioning football team? But other than that, I like a lot of the Raiders the Raiders schedule. They get a clean sweep of the Chargers. Just have to make sure we got that out there.
You are delusional. You are absolutely delusional, my guy.
Yeah, that stretch where I think you get like the Browns, Cowboys, and Chargers. That's going to be a nice little 3-game reset for the Raiders. Kind of get back on track if they hit a couple speed bumps. But yeah, basically 3 booty call games, I think, is the reference we're calling now. So
Tim, it sounds like the Chargers are going to get swept by the Raiders and the Chiefs. Man, this is a rough one for you guys this year.
I mean, I expect that coming from a Kansas City Chief fan. They live in delusional land. I mean, until Patrick Mahomes came there, they wasn't even relevant themselves. So I'm going to take that with a grain of salt because, it's coming from a Chiefs fan. Now, if it was coming from Corey, maybe I'd be like, oh, okay, like this is a really sad moment for the Chargers. But it's coming from the Chiefs, so I'm not worried about it. At the end of the season, we know where we will stand, and the Chargers will be in the playoffs. And come AFC Championship time, the Chiefs will be sitting at home. So
that's weird.
So you're saying they're not going to make the playoffs at all?
No, the Chiefs will make the playoffs, but they're going to lose in like the divisional round. So,
look, all I'm saying is I'm not going to argue at that point, but all I'm saying is I have like a 7-year bender where like working for me right now. So honestly, like these things aren't really delusional, Tim. This is how it's been for a very long time. Like you can disagree, I get that, but saying it's delusional is weird. We've had 7 straight AFC West or AFC Championship games. We've won like 1 million straight AFC West divisions.
Did you not hear me say before Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah,
you guys were right in the same thick of it as the rest of the AFC West.
Yeah, but why are we going decades back now?
Because you guys are basing this off of like a small stretch. Like, it's okay. Like all great dynasties must come to an end, and the Chiefs dynasty is closing to an end, so it's all right.
No, you're right, but here's the thing: as a fan, don't you want to enjoy it and bask in it while it's there? Isn't that kind of what you're supposed to do as a fan?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't know because my team has been bottom of the barrel for all my life, basically, with the exception of a few great seasons here and there. But I haven't got to experience a Super Bowl yet. So, like, when I get there, maybe I'll be in the same boat that you're in currently. But
yeah, it'll be a great – trust me, because I was a fan during all those shit Chiefs years. I'm not denying that. I had to go through the Tyler Thigpen and Brody Croyle and Damon Heward years. I was here for that. And it does make your Super Bowl sweet. So, like, all I'm saying is, like, if and when you get to experience that, I think you'll have a little more understanding.
He said, "Hey, for a win."
I mean, when we experience it is right. So,
and I will say, Cody, I feel like the Raiders came out on better on this end of Matt. We can go back to our Josh McDaniel days, right?
Oh God.
Yeah. So again, you guys kind of lucked out. I figured you guys may have learned a lesson from what Denver did. And I know the whole I've changed type thing. He clearly didn't. He was doing the exact same thing with you guys that he did in Denver. So I think you guys kind of, you got to get to that point before it gets better, right?
Yeah. Well,
you had to have Antonio Pierce, and now now Pete Carroll. So, you had to suffer a little bit.
I'll suffer a little bit, dude. We've had 2 playoff appearances in 25 years, man. I I wasn't even a teenager yet when I saw the Buccaneers absolutely spank the Raiders in their last Super Bowl, and my son, he's now in his teens. He's seen one playoff game from the Raiders, one. So yeah, I don't want to get into this whole like which franchise had the worst lull, because I think the Raiders.
We've all been there.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Denver's coming out of theirs now, obviously, but we were pushing that with the Jets with the playoff drought. So I'm kind of glad we were able to get to that before the Jets were.
Right.
So let's kind of.
I do want to throw this out there just so you know I can say something nice about the Chargers.
Oh, okay.
No, something nice.
No, this is going to be a backhanded compliment.
No, it's a legitimately nice thing to say. Like, this one's coming just fastball down the middle. I'm not coming from left field. I think the most underrated and underappreciated defensive name in the league is Jesse Minter.
Thank you.
I don't think he gets enough love or recognition as a defensive play caller. And, I mean, you guys have heard me enough now to know that I love defense, and I will always show love to defense, no matter who the team is. And I think Jesse Minter is he'll be a hot, if he wants to, head coach candidate sooner than later, just because of what he can do with defenses.
Hopefully not. Hopefully he wants to stay defense coordinator for the Chargers for many, many years. Hopefully he becomes like the new Steve Spagnuolo, okay? Like,
yep.
Let's kind of get back on track here.
Sorry, I just had to say something nice.
Yeah,
no, you're good.
That's the only one you get for the rest of the episode.
It only took him 56 minutes. I think that's what that time says up there. So
not including the 2.5 hours from episode 1.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on to our last AFC West schedule, Matt.
Hey,
I'm gonna let you take
can I not say my Raiders games or?
Oh, I thought you did it first. I'm sorry, Tim. Yeah, Tim, go.
Okay, so, much like Cody said, week 1 versus Patriots, you want to see what Pete Carroll can do with this Raiders squad. I think, this is a game that they can go to, Foxborough and come out with a win. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but I think Pete Carroll is going to lean heavy on Ashton Genty. They drafted him for a reason. And I'm also kind of interested because the Patriots had a chance to take Ashton Genty and just be a dominant offense, but they realized that they needed an offensive lineman, and they went Will Campbell 4th overall. So this is going to be really interesting to see. I do like, the Raiders pass rush. So I think that, with the exception of Will Campbell, I think, if Max Crosby lines up on the other side, I think he could really get to Drake May and cause pressure. I am excited for the Chargers in week 2. It's a Monday night game, a primetime game. So, Jim Harbaugh versus, like Cody said, Pete Carroll, kind of renewing their rivalry back from the college days. And looking at this, I'm really interested to see the Jags. And I know I said that on the Chiefs as well. But the reason I'm excited to see week 9 versus the Jags is the Jags had a chance to take Ashton Genty, and they traded up for Travis Hunter. So I'm really just kind of interested to see, is that going to come back to bite them, or was that the smart decision going up and getting Travis Hunter? And, Ashton Genty versus that Jags defense, what is he going to be able to do? So overall, episode 1, I had them at 7-10, kind of like a blind. We didn't really see how the schedule is. I'm going to increase it slightly from 7-10. I think they're going to go 8-9. I think they're just going to be just below 500. And I'm going to say that they're going to win week 1. Then they're going to lose a couple, maybe 3. They're going to get back on track versus the Colts. So I think where they start stacking up some of these wins is kind of right there in the middle, Jags, Cowboys, Browns, Texans in week 16. I think they can win. Giants, I think they have a chance. I know that defensive line is going to be tough, but Ashton Genty is one of the toughest players to ever be tackled. So I like the Raiders for 8-9 versus the 7-10 I had from episode 1. So Cody, hopefully I redeem myself just a little, and I can still get that sick intro that you've been working on.
Maybe,
But
I'll agree that we'll probably get to drop home games to one another. I think is fair. But maybe I see favor in your future. We'll see.
okay, all right.
And kind of to bounce off what you were saying, Timmy, about the Raiders, I think some of the games that they lost last year, the close games, I think they end up winning those this year. And again, coaching does make that difference.
Oh
right?
yeah.
So I like you increasing their win total. I think I also had them 7-10, roughly 8-9, somewhere in there. I still like that because I still think even though some of those games that they weren't able to kind of close or they weren't able to make like a slight comeback, I think it changes a little bit now with who their coach is. And even Geno Smith, I said it last episode, Geno Smith is not Aiden O'Connell, right? Geno Smith is a good quarterback. I think it's risky, right? I think it's risky, but I think at the same time, you want to do something now. And we talked about the Raiders ownership. He's not the most patient person, right? He's not the most patient. So you got to do something. But I think adding Pete Carroll does give them 1 to 3 more wins, essentially. That's kind of how I look at it. Cody, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very good point. I appreciate everyone for increasing the Raiders win total. I mean, I'm gonna basically stay at the 8-9. But what I would say is, like, to your credit, a lot of those games last season that we lost, I mean, some of the scores look like they were blowouts, but truthfully, the Raiders were right into the thick of it until it just, the defense couldn't continue to make stops with the offense not scoring. And that was what our problem was. Now that we've kind of addressed having an offensive coordinator in there, Chip Kelly, Pete Carroll, again, being a more disciplined coach, and having Genty getting Jack Besh, all these players that we were kind of just talking about in episode 1, I really do think that I'm kind of being a little apprehensive in saying like 8 wins, but I do think that there is something that the Raiders might be one of those AFC teams that kind of just sneaks past everybody. And as what my co-host Drew would say, is they're hard out. So if you do beat them, they're a team that's going to fight all 60 minutes. And in fact, they're going to rough you up along the way just because they're a tough football team. And at least that's what I want to see. I want to see the Raiders bring toughness back as they once did before and stop with this gimmicky, like, okay, this is a fan favorite coach. I want to see like a legit football team. So I appreciate Corey, Tim, and Matt that you guys are being very kind to the Raiders. So I want to see it on the field, and I can't wait to keep this friendly banter going when my Raiders beat your guys' team. So,
Well. Come on now. Hold on.
You didn't think the one dude who didn't have him finishing last, my guy.
Oh, that's right. I'm so sorry. Actually, you're the only guy that gave us an A, Austin. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, also, in fairness, though, I've already acknowledged that you guys are the team to beat in the division. Like,
That's true.
That's
true.
I've already given a lot of flowers to the Chiefs. I'm not trying to talk too much shit about them because the last time I claimed that the Chiefs weren't going to make the playoffs was the season after was the offseason they traded Tyreek Hill. That was the season I was like, oh, they're not even going to make the playoffs. They lost their big bad weapon, and they won the Super Bowl that year. So ever since then, I've been like, I'm not saying another dirty thing about the Chiefs unless we win. So.
No, what's crazy is I'm actually.
Come on, Dennis. Come on, Dennis. Give us more
Hey,
credit.
Dennis,
than that.
that sounds about right.
Again, now you have Pete Carroll, right?
Yeah.
So you had mentioned the defense getting tired and kind of getting burnt out in games. I don't know if that necessarily it'll happen. I don't think it happens at the rate because you're going to have hopefully maybe an improved run game, and you're going to have a coach who maybe has learned the lesson of first and goal from the 5. Are we going to throw the football? Pastor Tan hopes so, and now Jadae Barron and those guys hope you do. But again, that's just kind of where I'm at. Matt, do you guys have any?
Yeah, I think I don't know why people are thinking the Raiders offense isn't going to be that good. I know there's a few O-line questions, but you start looking at their weapons with like Myers and Beck, or however you say that dude's name from Texas.
I think it's Besh. I thought.
Besh. Yeah.
I thought, yeah.
But him, and then they had that little speed dude. Do they still have him? Is it Tucker?
We're not going to.
Yeah, Trey Tucker.
Well, I'm saving Brock Bowers for last. Ah.
I was thinking that'd be the first
Yeah,
one.
no, but then that's the obvious one. But even him, and then Genty, Geno Smith proved with weapons around him, he can lead a pretty good offense.
Mm-hmm.
So I think at the very least, what Cody said, they are going to be a very hard out. And when you start looking in division, even when the Raiders were at their worst, they were still a really hard out for the in division games. Like it was a true division game with the Raiders for most of us. So now I think, some of those games might end up going their way. I don't want to sit here and say like I would be surprised if they got 10 or 11 wins, but I really wouldn't, because I think even not just the difference Pete Carroll makes, but even the difference Geno makes, right? I know he's not an elite level quarterback, but the difference between him and Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell is
Night and day.
honestly like I don't even know. It's huge, right? So I'm confident and they get that 7 to 8 wins, but I have to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if they reach 9, 10, 11 wins, just given kind of what's being slept on with them.
Matt, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, like Austin said, like I think the Raiders are just getting slept on. If you think about it, Pete Carroll did revitalize Geno Smith's career. That first game against Denver, we don't like to talk about it much, but at the end of that game, they asked him. They said,
Hackett, by the way,
I agree.
Yeah.
We're not. That's a story for a different day.
Sorry.
But at the end of that game, they went up to Geno and they were like, "Everyone wrote you off. What do you have to say?" He's like, "They wrote me off. I didn't write back." That's going to be the Raiders' mentality. Everybody's already wrote them off. The Raiders aren't going to write back. They are going to surprise people, and I'm sticking with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that is a very good point. Unfortunately, they're still in our division now, right? But luckily for Denver, we don't have Nathaniel Hackett anymore. So Geno Smith, whatever. Timmy, do you have anything else to add to the Raiders before we move on?
Just real quick, when Austin was talking about all these playmakers for the Raiders, Ashton Jeanty and obviously Brock Bowers, I actually, for my fantasy football segment on my last episode, I mentioned a name that, is kind of a sleeper in fantasy, but also kind of a sleeper, in the NFL. And that's going to be Dante Thornton Jr., the 6'5" wide receiver who runs a 4.3 40. Speed, size, he's a perfect red zone target for Geno Smith. I know, on the goal line, the goal is to give it to Ashton Jeanty, but, if you're like at the 10, 15, 20, he's a great red zone target to go up in the end zone and get the ball. So I really like, Geno to Dante Thornton Jr. You heard it here on the second episode of the AFC West Roundtable.
And I just want to point out, how did your running back rankings go?
How did my running back rankings go? Cody, you might want to plug your ears on this.
Oh, no.
I actually put Amarian Hampton 1 and then Ashton Jeanty 2.
Yeah. No, I heard you when we were watching, and when I heard that, I'm like, he's coming at me for coming out of left field. Like, what's up?
Hey.
No, I appreciate it. I was just like, what's up, though?
Okay, hold on. Tim, I gotta ask you, strip the teams away. Hold on. I'm trying to wrap my brain. Strip the teams away. If you had the choice on the Chargers, you didn't get Hampton, so you can choose between Jeanty and Hampton. Who would you want? Again, neither of them on your team. Who would you want, though?
Well, as I was saying on the rankings, for fantasy football, but, my running back rankings, the best overall
Jeanty
back
or Hampton.
I know the best overall back is Amarian Hampton, and that's why I ranked him higher. I think he's a slightly better pass catcher, and he's a slightly better pass blocker than Ashton Jeanty. So for me, it's not even the fact that Hampton landed on the Chargers. If the Hampton landed on the Raiders, I still would have put Hampton above Jeanty. Jeanty was in that Mountain West, and I mean, I can't even name a player that came out of the Mountain West not named Ashton Jeanty. So
Derek Carr, Devontae Adams. Sorry, that's Fresno State's was their.
I'm talking this year. Like what defensive player came out of the Mountain West that I would know?
I can't say his name, but it's like Ahmad Hussein.
Oh yeah, the Boise State guy. I forgot, like the DN, the Egyptian.
I'm not a college football guy, so you're asking the wrong person to tell you who's on the Mountain West. I can only tell you Fresno State players. But
what I'm saying is the Mountain West is not the SEC. It's not the ACC. It's dang sure not the Big 12 or the Big Ten. So the level of competition that Ashton Jeanty saw in college versus the level of competition that Amari and Hampton saw, I mean, Hampton saw a way better competition and more NFL-ready defenses. So,
well, then why wasn't Hampton considered a Heisman then? Why wasn't he in the running for a Heisman Trophy?
I mean,
Jeanty was, though.
Look at the division. He played in a weak conference.
He dropped like 250 on Oregon.
He dropped 192 on Oregon.
Okay, I know it was.
I mean, that's not. It's not like that's not a lot of yards or what, man. Like,
No, that was like the only defense he really played. And then like but it was taking him. It took him 30, 40 carries a game to reach those numbers.
Okay,
against the Mountain West.
But if it's working, why stop it? I think that's like if
because in the NFL, do you really think he's going to have that success in the NFL? I don't think so. Is he going to be great? Absolutely. Is he going to be able to replicate that? Absolutely not.
Well, sure, because he's playing against top talent. But I can make the same argument about Amari and Hampton. Is he going to duplicate what he did at UNC? We don't know.
He has a better chance than Ashton Jeanty.
On what? Based on what? Because Jeanty was the #1 rated running back. I just think you wanted Hampton because he's on your team, and I get it.
No, I promise you, if he went to the Broncos, I would say that. Really? I promise. Any other AFC West team, I would have picked Hampton.
See, I don't believe that. I don't.
And now you guys see why I did that.
Yeah.
Hey, those that are watching right now, hey, this is only episode 2.
Timmy's already had a lot of heart-to-hearts.
Yeah.
I can feel that vein. I can feel that vein.
But Ashton Jeanty highlights in your intro video. I'm just telling you that right now. You're gonna see nothing but black and silver Ashton Jeanty highlight videos in your intro. That's what it's going to be.
I want people who are watching this right now in the chat box. Just go over there, take 10 seconds, just give us your thoughts. Omarion Hampton or Ashton Jeanty?
I think we have some Charger fans in here. Let's get some honest answers, please.
Honest answers.
Okay, hey, real quick.
No, if you truly
I'm live on Kick right now, so the comments are not popping up for you guys, but I have my chat pulled up, and I am hearing Hampton. He played in a stronger conference. I mean, here I'll show you.
I can't see that. I don't believe that.
I see a yellow circle.
Well,
I'll see your ring light. That is
go to kick.com/answer the call, and you'll see it in the chat.
Let's see. We got.
I mean, sure. He's 5'8", but our what is it? The running back out of Denver, he's the same height.
Yeah.
And I'm
Darren
not
Sproles was the same height.
And before we even go any further, we're absolutely Matt. We'll have questions if you put RJ Harvey near Ashton Jeanty's level. And I know. Okay, but again. This is the kind of stuff that this show's going to have, right? This is beautiful. This is absolutely pure cinema. And when I heard that on your show the other night, Tim, I was like, I get it, but at the same time, I was kind of just like, Cody's going to love this. And then we're sitting here talking about this, and then I don't know what it was and what you said right there. I was like, oh, this is the time. This is the time to say this.
And to everybody watching, listening, however you may be watching, however you may be listening, I want to point out that we don't really discuss like our thoughts before the show. We don't plan this out. I had no idea that Corey was going to throw that out there. You're getting true, raw, authentic emotion right there. Unfiltered, uncut, like just right there on the fly. And like, I've got to react, and Cody's got to react, or Matt's got to react. So you're not getting a staged episode here at the Roundtable. You're getting true, raw, authentic feel, and you can't match that. I promise you.
You can't. And it was kind of like if you go back, we posted the little clip of it when Timmy lays out his AFC West standings, and then my brother comes in hot and heavy. Yeah, I had the Chargers finishing last place. So again, this is
his reaction was awesome. It was perfect.
What about that hour 40 mark or so?
Yeah.
At this point, it's who can get the best reaction out of Tim. So
Yeah.
So
Who can make that vein just bulge the most?
with that, let's move. We got one more before we
Yeah,
get
yeah,
into. We have the Broncos left, and then we'll do an international, and then so we still have a little bit to get here too. So, Matt, I'm going to give this to you. There's the Broncos schedule, and kind of give us your initial thoughts.
Yeah, so I think honestly, these first 4 games are going to set the tone for the entire season, especially. And a lot of people are, as soon as I posted about it, a lot of people are like, "Oh, that's an easy win." Is that game against the Titans? And I'm telling you right now, it's not going to be a pushover like everyone thinks, because ESPN had the Titans defense ranked 2nd overall and the 2nd ranked secondary. So this is going to be a test for that new offense that the Broncos are putting together. And this is how they're going to perform against the top 5 defense. They have a lot of top 5 defenses on their schedule. So this is how they're going to perform against it. This is going to set the tone. And these first 2 games, I'm calling it now, especially against the Colts, that's a must-win game. Because if you think about it, whenever the end of the season or playoff time comes rolling around, who's always in playoff talks? The Colts. The Colts are always on there. And it's always like, if Denver loses, the Colts take their spot. If the Colts lose, Denver takes their spot. So Denver's got to win that game. And if I'm being honest, if Jonathan Taylor doesn't fumble that ball and get the touchback, that touchback doesn't happen, that game is probably a different story. So, I mean, the Colts and the Broncos, they always play each other tough. These are must-win games. I'm really looking forward to the Bengals matchup on Monday night. That's going to be really fun to watch, especially because I want to see how Barron does against receivers like Higgins and Chase. I mean, he's probably not going to line up against Chase too much. That's going to be PS2's job, but I want to see how they play them this time around, especially with the Bengals having all the turmoil they're facing right now with Henderson. He's unhappy, and Shamar sitting out because he didn't get what was promised. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Bengals are going to handle that adversity in-house versus going into Denver. Philly, that's I'm not holding my breath on that one. I think, honestly, I see Denver, those first 4 games, I see them winning, and Philly's going to hand them that first loss. I see them going 4-1, but then you get to the back end of the schedule, and those are some tough matchups too. The Commanders, that's going to be exciting to watch. With Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix squaring off each other. That's going to be fun to watch. The Packers, Jordan Love, these are playoff teams. They have, 6 playoff teams that they got to compete with on their schedule. So this is going to be a very fun. And if you look at it, they don't really get any breaks in between. If you look at last season, the first 2 games were kind of tough games. Actually, the first 3 were tough games. You had the Seahawks, then you had the Steelers, and then you had the Bucks. It kind of slows down with the Jets and so on and so forth. So they had little, I guess you can say, breaks in between. There's no break in between here. You have the Titans with their defense, the Colts that just play them tough every year, AFC West rival. Then you got the Bengals and what their offense can do. Then the Eagles, Super Bowl champs, share a little break with the Jets. Then you got the Giants, and we've all been saying it before, is, how are they going to be by the time that game rolls around? The Cowboys, I'm going to count that as a win. I was actually there the last time we played, and it's funny, we were all talking about opposing fans in the home team stadium. To see that sea of orange in Jerry World, that was unbelievable. The Texans, that's the game we should have won the last time. We should have won that game. Thanks, Russ. You couldn't throw it to your own guy. I had to throw it to the Texans player in the end zone. So thanks, Russ. Again, the Raiders. Just because I want to make Cody mad, I'm going to say we do sweep the Raiders. I actually do genuinely think that we can sweep the Raiders this season.
No, you don't.
Yes,
don't.
I do. I do. And I don't know what you're laughing at, Tim, because we're definitely going to sweep the Chargers.
Okay.
Definitely.
You over there taking page out of Austin's playbook and being delusional over here.
Well, I wanted to get my hand in the who can make Tim madder, game. So
Chargers are on the cusp of going 0-6 in the division, y'all. So look out for that.
Honestly, though, and real talk, though, that last game is going to depend on where each of us stands in our playoff run, assuming we make it there. I know Denver will, Chargers maybe not. But that last game with the Chargers, it's going to depend on what their playoff chances are, how they're stacking up in their playoff run. You know, if they're already in, they're already seeded, I see them resting and then they'll split the series. But if it's like final push, we got to get in, it's win or go home, I'm taking Denver on that one. So it's a tough schedule. Like I said, no breaks in between. So, and again, another late bye week. I hate that it's a week 12 bye week. That's definitely, and especially because you have tough opponents leading up to that. They're going to be tired by that point. And especially because the game before the bye week is against the Chiefs,
who are coming off their bye.
Who are coming off of their bye week. So it's going to be fun, but I do have Denver going 11-6 in this one. Or excuse me, 11-6.
Tim?
Okay, for obvious reasons, I had them going 10-7 on episode 1. And, looking at this, the Broncos have some favorable games. Matt, I do want to say, I think Broncos are just going to come out and smash the Titans. Yes, they got Cam Ward, but, Titans are down here and Broncos are up here in that game. Looking at this, and guys, I already said the Chargers are going to lose. I actually think the Broncos start hot. They're going to start somehow they're going to go 3-0 to start the season. And then they they meet the Bengals and then they go at Eagles. And I think they drop those two. I'm not going to lie. I still have them kind of being right at that 10-7. Maybe they go 11-6 instead. But one that I'm really excited about seeing is Week 13 at the Commanders. I want to see how Sean Payton handles coming off of a bye, going on the road, facing, a team that was a playoff team last year with rookie sensation Jaden Daniels. I want to see how he stacks up there. Obviously, I already said, Week 18, it's a division rival game. So I want to see how that plays out as well. Week 8 versus the Cowboys, that's a W all day. And I'm just going to go out and say right now, and sorry to my buddy Matt, he's a Cowboys fan. Sorry to Joel from the 3 Guys, 6 Balls podcast. He's a Cowboys fan. I'm going to say right here, right now, that the Cowboys go 0-4 versus the AFC West this season because they're just going to get swept by all of us. It's going to come Christmas time, Thanksgiving, and they're going to be like, oh, man, I got to play another AFC West team. And they're just going to be just down on their luck, and it's going to be a bad Christmas, and they're going to hope they have a happy New Year, but they're going to be sent home early. And I think the Broncos, though, episode 1, I had them as a playoff team. I still have them as a wild card team. So, the AFC West is going to have 3 representatives in the playoffs this season. I am kind of interested to see the Week 11 versus Andy Reid. Obviously, Week 3 at the Chargers and, Week 18 home for the Chargers. Sean Payton versus Jim Harbaugh, legendary coach matchup. This AFC West probably has the best coaches in all of football. I'm going to say that, and I think we said that episode 1, but I'm going to reiterate that because I really, truly feel they have the most experience and they have the best coaches in all of football for the whole division. So I'm really excited. I do want to say I am excited to see how, Barron does match up against those receivers, like you said, Matt, versus the Bengals and versus the Eagles. That's going to be key because they chose Jahdae Barron over Amari and Hampton. So I want to see how that plays out.
Cody?
So looking at the Broncos schedule, I think I see what the NFL did here. So the Chiefs arguably have the tougher schedule amongst the AFC West, followed by obviously the Chargers, who collectively we kind of agree that they're within the top 3 within our division to take the crown. I think we can all kind of agree to that. And then the Broncos, in my opinion, out of our 4 teams, look like they have more of a friendlier schedule because, listen, we got the Titans week 1. I kind of agree with Tim and Matt. That's, to me, it's going to be an easy win. Granted, Cam Ward's coming in there. He's a rookie. That defense is going to really engulf Cam Ward, in my opinion. Colts, I really think that the Colts are going to get slaughtered and turned into glue from the Broncos, so I don't have high hopes for that game. Depending on the Chargers and the Denver Broncos, truthfully, on our division, I have everyone splitting 3-3. So we're all losing and we're all winning to one another. I think that's a baseline for what I have, in my opinion, for our division. So what I will say is, when it comes to going to the Chargers, this is where it could be a game of victory or loss for the Broncos. But let's just assume that they lose. Now they're 2-1, coming home again to go against the Bengals. And I like this pressure defense going against the Bengals because they didn't do anything on the offensive line. So I think this could be a game where it brings the Broncos' confidence back up. Got a tough stretch going on the road to Philly, which all of us do. But I think what makes this interesting is the Broncos have a pretty easy first half of the schedule. And then second half is where we're going to really see, can the Broncos maintain whatever that above 500 record is? Because I think they'll go into the bye week above 500. So you got the Commanders, and then they're going to, come to Las Vegas on Pearl Harbor Day. And that's a day that's going to live in infamy because the Raiders are going to take that one. So you already got a loss on that one, Matt. And then they got to go to then they're going to go home to play Green Bay. Green Bay could be a really sleeper NFC North team that might actually have something to play for. Jags are the Jags, so I see that as an easy win. But then you got to close out your season against two divisional opponents who all three of you guys might be fighting for the AFC West crown. So no people are being rest. So I think, in my opinion, the Broncos have kind of the easiest schedule on paper, but that's just because the back half of that schedule is going to even out to where there's probably going to be a 3-legged race. And if what Austin says is true, it's going to be a 4-legged race if the Raiders are in that mix as well. So this is where the fun of the second half of the season for the Broncos is going to show out, because we're really going to see, okay, can this defense withstand going to Washington? Is it going to withstand the Green Bay Packers? Can it withstand going against the Chargers and the Chiefs in back-to-back weeks? So I really find that very interesting. Also, with Sean Payton, does he have enough offensive weapons to keep up with everybody? Because I don't know if the Broncos have enough offensive weapons to keep up with the likes of the Commanders, let's say, or Green Bay if they got into a shootout. I don't know. I know Bo Nix has the arm for it, but is there enough weapons on the field? And in my opinion, obviously we haven't played it down in football, so we don't know. So that's my assessment of the Denver Broncos. There's a lot of fun games here, but I also think the first half is going to be a little bit of a mirage, and it's going to come back down to earth that second half.
Yeah, I think the Broncos had the easiest 3-game stretch to start in the league. And that's really, we've said it for some other teams where that beginning part really sets the tone. And I think they're going to set a pretty good tone. I actually think they're going to pretty easily handle the Bengals, for the simple fact that I don't think it matters what Bo Nix's weapons are, because there's nobody on the Bengals to stop anyone. And the Broncos have enough defense to get a few stops to kind of get some space in there. So the first one, there's really only 3 games I question on their schedule that I'm not confident saying Denver will win. I think Denver has a chance against every AFC West opponent. So those 50-50 ones, you can go either way on them. But I think the Bengals, Eagles, and Commanders are really their 3 kind of okay games. Which way are these going to go? I think the rest of the schedule, though, outside of the division games, for Denver are going to be pretty easy. To what you were saying, Cody, is their defense going to be able to travel and play? And defense is the one thing that travels, right? A run game and defense. If you have those, you're already kind of set up for success. So I like Denver's defense enough to keep them in literally 17 games this year. That's how good I think their defense is. There's going to be a couple games where the offense is going to have to do something, right? That's just the way the NFL is. And I trust Sean Payton enough to produce offense enough for them to win games. So I had them win in the division in our last episode. I think after seeing the schedule release, I think they easily win the division. I think they're the ones resting starters come to the end of the year, especially if they steal one of those. If they get that Eagles game, okay, now you're feeling real good that first quarter of the season. Kind of watch out. Bo Nix and Sean Payton are kind of continuing on from what they did last year. So I really think that Bengals-Eagles 2-game stretch is really going to determine how that next stretch of games go. But I just trust Denver's defense enough to it's not going to be an easy win for anybody, even the Eagles. So, you know, I think you were spot on, Cody. The weapons offensively may not be there, but I don't know if they need it. They might do what the Chiefs did last year, score like 19 points a game, and that's going to be good enough. And I think that's where Denver's at this year.
So I do agree that I do think Denver splits with all the teams in the AFC West. I do think the Raiders are still better, right? And then obviously, Timmy, I still think the Chargers can get one from Denver as well. And then obviously the Chiefs. There's 3 matchups that I'm looking at on the schedule. Obviously, that first one with the Bengals, that's the key one. But you look at this schedule and you see why Denver went barren first round, right? Like look what they're playing against. It's teams with good receivers, and you're gonna have to have defense. You're gonna need defense. I'm not on the bandwagon of I think Denver wins the AFC West. I still think there's still a little bit of holes on the defense. And you don't know with Greenlaw who's gonna. I do think if there's a game our defense may struggle, it could still be that one. That could still be a shootout. I think last year was 31-24, 30-24, with T. Higgins having all those touchdowns and whatnot. And then I'm looking at that. I've been looking forward to Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels matchup since I knew we were playing the NFC East. I love Jaden Daniels. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks right now. And Bo Nix obviously is my favorite quarterback because he's on the Broncos. But I'm looking forward to that matchup because now you have 2 quarterbacks from last year's class, right? And we all know what the Commanders were able to do last year. We know the type of defense Denver has. Can they keep him contained? That's going to be the question. Can they keep the running quarterbacks contained? And then the last one I'm looking forward to, for obvious reasons, is the Christmas matchup in Kansas City on Christmas, obviously with our household being the way it is. If Denver can steal that game, that would be fine. There's something a little more with the Chiefs to me than with all the others in the West, just based on look who's sitting next to me and just look who's before. Yeah. So those are the 3 games I'm looking at. I still like Denver at 11-12. I think 12 is the ceiling, but I still think that there's some games on there that can go either way because I keep hearing everyone saying they didn't do enough for the weapons on offense. I disagree. I still like Evan Ingram, what he was able to do. And Sean Payton's going to get a known joker, which the joker position for Sean Payton's extremely important. Now I get it. Can he stay healthy? I hope so. And then I'm talking myself into RJ Harvey a little bit more. Quadzilla, I suppose. Quadzilla. It's going to be, I think we need to have 100 yards. Just give me 100 yards from a running back this season. I don't care when. I just want 100 yards from a running back. I want us to look like we know what we're doing running the football. We have a good offensive line. I like our offensive line and what they're able to do. Get the running game established, help Bo Nix in year 2, make a point, set a tone. I do like that first 4 weeks. Sorry, guys. Somebody's got to have an easy stretch for your start to the season. It just happens to be the Broncos.
I said they were going to start 3-0. So
yeah, no, and I agree with that. I really do. It scares me a little bit because all 3 of those games are easy games that Denver could just shit the pants, right? Like they could easily just crap down their leg, and we could lose one of those games. Now you're not setting a good tone, and now you don't know what the rest of the season is going to hold, right? Does Bo Nix come out and struggle the first part of the season? Is RJ Harvey really a good running back? Is he struggling? Is he still shuffling running backs in? Is Barron maybe not adjusting? So obviously there's a lot of question marks there, which is why I'm still not quite sold on them winning the West, but I do think it'll be a couple games improvement from what they were able to do last year. And I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say. So we'll take a couple minutes here. Timmy, do you want to get us going?
Yeah, first and foremost, RJ Harvey is going to have over 100 yards rushing week 1 versus the Titans. I'm calling it now. Something else I want to point out, it's more like a question. Is it mathematically possible that all 4 teams from the West make the playoffs? Is that
I believe so.
Yeah.
Is it like a legit situation, or is it just like a fantasy of ours that we have all of our teams in the playoffs?
Well, so somebody has to win the divisional crown. Someone has to be number 1. And then following that, the records have to be close enough to where the other AFC teams that are like second place don't have as good of a record as your team, my team, the Broncos. It's possible because the NFC North nearly did it when the Bears were, I think, 4-2. And then all of a sudden, after the Hail Mary that the Commanders gave to them, they just fell off a cliff. So it's possible, and it nearly happened last year. So, yeah, mathematically, it can happen. It's just very, very rare.
Also, like I said, RJ Harvey, over 100 yards. In fact, I think he is going to lead week 1 in rushing. Hot take, episode 2, AFC West Roundtable. RJ Harvey leads week 1 in rushing.
So he probably has him ranked ahead of Genty too.
Oh shit!
Oh my God! Don't. I'm gonna crash out. Don't do this to me.
No. I just think that
there's no way that you would believe that.
I mean, I was gonna ask the same thing on that.
No. Listen, it has nothing to do with Genty on the Raiders. I promise you. Just think of it. The Titans, yeah, they do have kind of a defense, but like look at it like the Raiders versus the Patriots. The Patriots have a better defense than what the Titans have. So I feel that RJ Harvey will have more yards than Ashton Genty week 1.
I don't know, man. That Titans defense is really the only thing they got going. Like they are a really good defense.
Yeah.
I still think Denver smashes, but I don't know if it's RJ Harvey coming out and just.
Oh no, it's gonna be Quadzilla party. So
I want to speed us up a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go to the international schedule because I know we have a couple more topics to go. So this one's not a full screen one, but there's kind of the international schedule right there. Obviously, we know the week 1 matchup is easy matchup for the Chiefs, apparently. But I think my opinion, I think these are some of the better international games than what we've seen. Obviously, the Jaguars usually get one, and I shouldn't say that because the Browns are playing an international game, and I'm sorry to all of our friends in the UK that have to watch that. But at least you get to see the Vikings. So, Matt, get us started on what do you think of this year's international slate?
I mean, it's a very interesting slate. Usually, I don't watch the international games because like some of them just aren't very good. But I think you know that Vikings Steelers matchup, that one's going to be pretty fun to watch. I think a lot of people are kind of hating on that one, but I think that's going to be a pretty fun matchup to watch. Even the Falcons and Colts, that'll be a pretty fun game to watch as well. But honestly, I view the international games as basically the Thursday night football games of the world, man. It's just I hate that I have to get up at 6:30 in the morning to watch the Broncos beat the piss out of the Jets, but it is what it is.
Timmy, what are your thoughts on the old international games?
You know, I'm actually really excited. I'm not really excited that the Chargers and Chiefs both have to go to Brazil and play on that crappy field that, is in Brazil. Nothing against Brazil, sorry. But, unless you improve that field from last season, that was a very terrible field. And like I said earlier, I'm shocked that the NFL even wanted to go back there because last year they were told that, to leave their families at home and like they had to have like security take them from the hotel to the stadium. And so I just feel like that was a very unsafe for, the players, the coaches, and everybody there. But, kind of like what Matt said, that international game with the Vikings and the Steelers, I'm excited for it. Not so much for the teams, but because it's in Dublin, first game in Ireland, so as an Irishman, I am very happy to see a game played in Dublin. And I got to say, though, that the Vikings are now going to make history by becoming the first team to be in 2 different countries, to play in 2 different countries internationally, back-to-back weeks. I know the Jaguars did it last year, but that was in, both in London. I got to say that, if the Vikings lose both of those international games, maybe they should just stay overseas and not even come back to the States, But while we're talking about the Jaguars, does it not seem like they should just move to London? I mean, every year, I swear, the Jacksonville Jaguars gets one of those games over in London. So we might as well just call them the London Jaguars from here on out because every year they play. I am kind of interested to see how, they match up versus the Rams. But, overall, I think the Chiefs Chargers, it's a division rival, so it's going to be good. I'm really interested to see the Broncos Jets. The Broncos last season won a very ugly game versus the Jets. So I want to see if they can keep that momentum versus the Jets going. But, kind of like what Matt said, none of these really kind of just jump off. I am kind of excited for the Madrid, the Commanders Dolphins. I want to, and the Falcons Colts in Berlin. So it's kind of cool to see them in different countries. But at the same time, you do got to get up early, especially if you're on the West Coast. So
Yeah, we usually kind of gauge to see who's playing the London game. It's like, is it going to be an early morning? Most of the time, it's no. Um, Either way, I'm a morning person anyway, so I usually am up and I'll watch them. But Cody, what are your thoughts on the international?
So outside of the matchup in week 1 with the Chiefs and the Chargers, none of these games really excite me. I mean, sure, Vikings and Steelers, fine. Broncos and Jets, fine. But I mean, some of these teams, it's almost like they put like a dartboard and they threw darts and like, okay, those two teams, what country? I don't know. Let's roll dice and let's figure it out. I don't see any sort of, these games don't strike me as very competitive. Like the Rams going against the Jaguars, that doesn't light my socks on fire, if I'm being honest. Like that seems like a drag. Whoever put the Browns in the international should be really thrown into jail. Why would you put them in London? We got to give a good first impression of London. Why would you send the Browns? Like, I don't agree with that. I think international games should be more focused on like AFC and NFC, like rivalry matchups or divisional matchups. I think it should go to that. That might give it a little bit more excitement, because I'm excited for the divisional matchup between the Chiefs and the Chargers. The Broncos and Jets, I'm curious just because Justin Fields, and I feel like they did this last year, so we'll see. It's kind of like a rematch. But outside of that, none of these really excite me. Like none of them strike me as a game like, oh yeah, I have to get up and see like the outcome of this. No, I'll catch the highlights, and hopefully I just got to remember to set my fantasy lineup if I have any of these players on here. And in fact, I should probably think of sitting them, because I've never had a fantasy player go off on an international game unless you had a T.Y. Hilton like years ago. So that's my only opinion about him.
Yeah, so two things. First, the Broncos Jets last year was a goddamn hurricane monsoon. So weather played a huge factor in that. That's why it was a shitty game. Even Aaron Rodgers struggled a little bit. So
I love seeing Aaron Rodgers struggle. So give me that every time.
So we'll use that excuse for that one. Second, I actually am excited about the Jaguars this season. I know if you notice, I didn't say anything negative about the Jaguars during any of the schedules, because I do like what the Jaguars are doing. I do like their young defense. I do think Trevor Lawrence with Cohen is actually going to be a really good connection.
Do you think he'll be equal to him with Baker Mayfield?
I do. I really do.
Okay.
And I actually like that Rams Jaguars matchup. That's one. Before we got on, I told my brother, I was looking at that schedule, and I was like, dang, I actually kind of like that Jaguars Rams. And Cody's like, nah. But so I am actually, I am kind of high on the Jaguars this year. I do like what maybe they have. And again, it could be the division that they're in. It's kind of like the NFC South, except on the AFC side, right? So that's kind of a game that I'm looking forward to. And I do like that Broncos Jets matchup, just because I'm curious to see how Justin Fields does against Denver's defense. That's a good stone for the Broncos defense, a good test, because they still have good skill position players. I know Breece Hall typically does pretty well against the Broncos. I think 2 years ago, I think he had that long touchdown run on Denver and whatnot. So again, that's a good run game for Denver's defense to kind of test and see what they have going for it there. Again, I do have interest in the Chiefs Chargers week 1 for obvious reasons, AFC West matchups and Chiefs and Timmy with Chargers. So I'll keep track of that one. I do agree with the field. I think that game's going to be a little bit better than some may think. But just kind of going from that standpoint. So the Rams and Jaguars game was actually one of my ones that I was going to say, one of the matchups I was going to use for my matchups that I was excited about this year. So now I kind of feel like shit.
No, don't feel like it. It's not it's not on my list. So
I don't. And I was like, hey, there's a disagreement. We have those, and it's good, but I'm also one that I'm again, I'll admit it, I'm higher on the Jags this year than some maybe, unless you're a Jaguars fan. And even Jaguars fans might not even be that high on their team. Who knows? But um, Matt, do you have anything? Or actually, it's do you have anything on the international?
Are there any
Yeah,
Jaguar fans in the chat?
We have a Jaguars fan in the chat.
What?
What?
No, I said do we?
Who?
Like,
Oh,
No.
all of us were shocked. We were like,
Yeah, no.
what?
I was like, oh my god, we found one. No, we didn't.
no.
Yeah,
They're non-existent.
bro.
Rams by 100. No, I'm actually really excited. This is going to sound weird, but I'm going to go with what's on paper and on teams right now. I'm actually really excited for the Vikings Steelers for three reasons. It's two great defenses. We already know my love for defense. I'll watch any game that has great defenses involved. My second one is right now it's JJ McCarthy versus Will Howard. So you're going to have some Michigan, Ohio State going on here,
Oh,
right? Yeah. So as of right now, that's what we're looking at. So it might not even need to be a good defensive game because the offenses are just going to be bad. So that one could turn south really quick. But yeah, outside of that one, I'm obviously excited for the Chiefs beat down of the Chargers. Sorry, Tim.
Oh,
Yeah, but other than that, I'm with everyone else.
we're
There's
gonna
not
have to
really,
make a bet on this.
yeah, there's not like a consensus like I have to get up and watch game. Yeah, outside of those two, there's really nothing like piques my interest at all. You guys are spot on. Let's send some quality teams over there. A, so it's worth getting up for, and B, other countries realize we do have good football teams that we're just like not holding hostage over here. But yeah, they moved their like games they usually do on Thursday nights and they put them international and said, "Here you go." So that's kind of what we're working with.
So let's move into our last segment. Cody, I'm gonna let you take reins on our last segment here.
Yeah, of course. Actually, so oblige me, guys. I got two questions.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, one question, and then I want to end it with a divisional question for everybody. But anyways, so there's three games that I'm looking forward to, and I wanted to know from everybody what three games with the NFL season in general from all the teams are you looking forward to the most? They don't necessarily have to be your team, just a team in general or a matchup in general that you're just interested in. So what are those three? And if you guys would oblige me, brothers, go ahead and answer first.
Yeah, so I'm actually really looking forward to that Eagles-Cowboys matchup. And here's why. I know we've been kind of pooping on Cowboys all day, which is never a bad thing. But I am curious to see, like, I know Schottenheimer's already kind of rubbing the players differently, and that kind of sounds weird, but he's making guys.
Well, what did the kids say? Pause. Wait, what?
Yeah, that's why I was like, oh. But he's making guys move their lockers around, making them, like he says, nothing's worked. Now we're making change. You go out and you get George Pickens. You pair him with CeeDee Lamb. You're getting Dak back. What's your run game going to look like? I'm curious to see, because they typically, for the most part, play the Eagles and they play their division somewhat well, right? So that's game one. Game two, and I know of all the games, so I still like that Broncos-Bengals Monday night game, just for the simple fact of I want to see where Denver's defense can stack up against an offense like the Bengals. You have elite quarterback, two receivers. You got Gesicki, the tight end, and then Chase Brown. You got the running game. They got P. Ryan back, so how are they going to utilize him? And then my third game, I'm actually looking forward to seeing Sammy Darnold up against the Vikings. Vikings made that decision on not bringing him back. They made the decision of we don't feel it. I don't know. I'm not going to say they didn't feel like they needed to give him the contract. They just felt like it was better to let him do his thing. We're going to give maybe it was we're going to get Aaron Rodgers, but now it's like JJ McCarthy's show, right? So I want to see how Sam Darnold fits in with Seattle, because they don't have DK Metcalf anymore. They do still have Jackson Smith-Njigba. They still have their running game. And then just to see what JJ McCarthy's able to do against the Seahawks defense, it's pretty good. So those are my three, and I'll hand it off to you.
Yeah, all three of mine are actually coming in week one. Just because I don't know, I feel like that's still when you have a lot of question marks. I feel like by like week 5 or 6, you kind of know how games are going to go or kind of how the teams are. So you're kind of not as amped for it if it's not like a rival or a good team. So the one I'm probably the most excited about is actually the Patriots Raiders. I know I mentioned it earlier. We all know I'm a Drake May guy. I'm a Mike Vrabel guy. I think that's a really good first matchup for them. And then on the contrary, I'm a big Pete Carroll guy, so I think it's a good matchup for them. I think that game alone, it's it's not a must win because it's week 1, but I think it's a really important game for both teams looking for fresh starts. Um, so I'm excited to see it. I think it's when you get 2 great coaches against each other, anything can happen. And then my other 2 are actually it's just the NFC North matchups. You have the Lions versus the Packers, and then the Vikings versus the Bears. That's kind of the division. That's if there's one ahead of the AFC West, you're looking at the North, but that's kind of the other top to bottom expected to be toughest divisions. And they wasted no time and just did 2 in division matchups week 1. Say what you want, but we're going to see a lot of how JJ McCarthy's going to do. How Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams are. How are they going to already separate themselves week 1? Because there's question marks, right? That's what makes me excited. We don't really know. Like even with the Lions, how are they going to look without Ben Johnson running the show? Vikings, you have JJ McCarthy now. What's that going to look like? The Packers, you never really know with the Packers. Are they going to start slow and then turn it on? Are they going to figure it out now? What's going to happen? Them actually drafting receivers, is that going to add a little energy to their room finally since they haven't done it in 100 years? And then the Bears, obviously, just a whole bunch of new. So I think it's just a lot of exciting storylines. I think there's a lot of potential and a lot of talent that are going to be played in those games. And so those are the 3 I'm kind of excited for outside of the Chiefs beatdown of the Chargers.
Well, and also too, the Bears just got the news that Caleb Williams doesn't even want to be a Bear, so I'm curious to see how they open week 1. So that's
wild.
Yeah, that's funny actually.
That is really
all right,
wild.
Matt, what are your games that you're looking forward to?
So my first one's going to be in week 1. It's going to be that rematch between the Bills and the Ravens, that Sunday night football game. That one I'm really looking forward to. I thought it was a very exciting game in the divisional round. Obviously Mark Andrews, he wants that pass back and whatnot. But I'm really looking forward to that matchup. I think they just play each other well. Josh Allen is a tough quarterback to bring down, and Lamar Jackson with all the things that he can do, and Derrick Henry right behind him. I'm really excited to see them square off with each other. My next game would be the Lions and the Bears. Ben Johnson's return to Detroit. Talked about it earlier. How are the Lions going to fare without Ben Johnson? And then how is Ben Johnson going to do against the Lions with Caleb Williams, who doesn't even want to be a Bear anymore? But, they did, they drafted Luther Burden. I know Corey was real high on Luther Burden. Wish Denver had opportunities to get him. But, they drafted Luther Burden. Now you have him paired up with, is it Darnell? Am I saying it right? Darnell Mooney? Is that?
It's Roma Dunze.
Yeah. And him. Yep. Roma Dunze.
And DJ Moore.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah. I don't know why Darnell Mooney popped in my fucking head. Anyway, DJ Moore, Roma Dunze, Luther Burden, Keenan Allen, depending on what happens with him. That's a good receiving core with
Colston Loveland.
With Colston Loveland, and you have Cole Kmet, who, in my opinion, is a very underrated tight end. Shout out to Micah from Chi-Town Blitz. I know he's a big Bears guy. But I think they drafted very well. So I'm very excited to see what the Bears do, especially against the Lions. And then my last matchup is the Broncos and the Commanders. Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, the 1 and 2 for Rookie of the Year. If you saw him last year, Jaden Daniels got out to a hot start. Bo Nix kind of started slow. And then Daniels kind of started to cool down. Bo Nix started to heat up and then just kind of went back and forth. So now I'm actually excited to see them go back and forth on the field.
All right, Tim, your games.
All right, so call me, say what you will. All right, my very first game I'm excited about is the NFL kickoff game. Thursday night, Cowboys Eagles. Cowboys has to watch as the defending Super Bowl champs hang another banner. And I want to see like how that motivates the Cowboys. Like, do they like see that and just come out and just like be really aggressive and try to shove it in the face of all the Eagles? Or are they going to lay down and be what the Cowboys normally do?
Yep.
So that one really kind of stands out. It's the week one, it's the kickoff game. Another one is the Bills Ravens. You know, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, top 2 in the MVP voting last season. That one really kind of gets the blood pumping. But I think really for me, it's going to be probably, you know, the Bears and the Commanders in week 5, you know, the rematch. You know, we talked about it earlier where the Bears were 4-2 and then Jaden Daniels hits that Hail Mary and then all of a sudden the Bears season just fell apart. Now the Bears have, you know, Ben Johnson. They drafted really well. But, you know, the Commanders have Jaden Daniels, who had a great rookie season. And I only imagine he's going to be better. You know, he actually watches, like plays virtual reality and plays the game in like 2 times the speed or 3 times the speed or something like that. So I want to see like the improvement Jaden Daniels has in year 2 versus year 1. So those are my 3 that I'm kind of really excited for this season.
That's kind of funny how Caleb Williams doesn't want to be a Bear. He didn't study film. And then you got Jaden Daniels, who's doing literally virtual reality to get better as a quarterback. So just kind of funny that bipolar opposite of the two. So I'll go quick on this one. My 3 week 3 Rams go to Philadelphia, that playoff rematch. I'm very curious to see because I think that the Rams defense can actually keep up with the Eagles. And I did think that the Rams stood a good chance against the Eagles if it wasn't for that, basically that snowstorm that they were playing in. But week 3, I'm very curious to see where the Rams are and also the Eagles. I think that rematch is interesting. Week 10, Detroit going to the Commanders in Washington. I think that playoff matchup I'm very interested to see because as everyone knows, the Lions went into that playoff game as overall favorites and the Commanders just took them out, man. It was kind of very interesting to see. And Jaden Daniels pretty much made a name for himself in the NFL from that playoff game and his poise and his throws. And then week 15, Baltimore going to Cincinnati. In my opinion, that game will actually determine who the AFC North title winner is. Oh. And I'm really looking forward to that matchup because I think, in my opinion, Baltimore and Cincinnati, they're going to be duking it out for the AFC North title. It always comes down to one divisional game, and this week 15 matchup, I'm really, really, really looking forward to. So I've got one last divisional question for you guys, and I think this is how we'll close the show. So my divisional question is, what are you more concerned with regarding your team? It's offense or it's defense? Tim, I'll let you kick that question off.
Well, I think obviously it's offense. You know, last season the Chargers offense sputtered at times, and honestly, you know, their defense was really good, and I thought they did a good job at you know, getting better than they were last season. I know the Chargers got all these playmakers, and it looks good on paper, but, you know, it's one thing for the 5 of us to sit here and say the Chargers offense is going to be great this season, or everybody in America saying the Chargers offense is going to be great. It's a whole different ball game on game day and executing the way that, you know, it should. And for me, as a Chargers fan, I just remember last season, that offense was lacking last season, you know, sputtering. You know, the defense only allowing, I think it was like 13-something points a game last season. So shout out to the Chargers defense for even keeping them in some of these games because the offense put them in position to where they were on the field more and they really had to rely on that defense. You know, Justin Herbert, step up, be the elite quarterback that everybody talks about. You know, everybody says Justin Herbert's an elite quarterback, but is he really? He needs to prove that in the big moments this season. Week 1 versus the Chiefs, week 18 versus the Broncos. He needs to prove it week in and week out. Amari Hampton, he needs to come in and prove that he was worth that first round pick over some people, you know, that viewed that there was better talent than Amari Hampton at 22. And the Trey Harris pick, you know, Jim Harbaugh selected him in the 2nd round for a reason, we have to believe. So I really want to see the offense step up and you know, offensive line, you got to protect Justin Herbert a lot better. Justin Herbert, you got to make the big throws in the big moments, and the wide receivers, you got to go catch them. Amari Hampton, you got to break the tackles. And so I want to see the offense And I think that, I'm more concerned of how the offense will do versus how the defense will do.
Matt, what about your team? What are you more concerned about, the team's defense or team's offense?
Definitely offense. Like, without question, it's definitely the offense. And you saw it a lot too. Just the fact that I feel like the Broncos had the worst running back room in the league. Just what they were, they could barely get across, 50 yards. And the games they did, it was just against teams that had, bad defenses. But even then, they still couldn't break that 100-yard threshold. So the running game was terrible. The receivers they started off slow. They got better in the back end of the season, but they still had a case of the drops, and it was very evident, especially in that playoff game against the Bills. Crucial third down plays. Bo Nix hit them right in the chest, and they dropped it. Could have kept the drive alive. So I mean, again, they weren't that great on third down. The receivers were dropping passes. The tight end group, I'm glad that we have Evan Ingram now, but he's on the opposite end of 30. And is he going to stay healthy? So you have, all those questions are there. So I'm definitely worried about how the offense is going to do. They especially against the Chiefs. The first matchup had opportunities to win it. The defense kept them in the game, and second half up until their final drive, they only had 25 total yards of offense. So offense without a question.
Austin, what about for the Chiefs? Are you more concerned about their defense or offense?
I'm going to say offense, strictly because of the offensive line. I actually think this is one of the better, deeper skill positions the Chiefs have had in the Patrick Mahomes era. It's, we had Tyreek Hill and Kels, but then the drop-off after was wild. But I feel comfortable with the receivers, with Hollywood Brown, Rice, Worthy, Royals that they drafted this year. Running backs, I like Pacheco and Hunt and Mitchell and Brashard Smith. Tight ends, we still got Kels, but then we have depth with Noah Gray, Jared Wiley, signed Robert Tonyan, and then undrafted free agent Burning Stool from Clemson. Like, we're deep in those positions now, so I like that. But it all starts on the offensive line, and that's got to be the biggest concern with the Chiefs just as a team. Like, their whole team, the biggest concern is, did they finally figure out the offensive line? I do think there's a few more holes on defense, but Spags does a really good job of covering those up. There's not a really good way to cover up protecting Patrick Mahomes. You either can or you can't. We can throw 1-yard passes and screens all day long, but that's not going to get the best out of the Patrick and its weapons. So really, it's the offense because of the offensive line. Did we solve it? If we did, it could be a really good year, because I do think this is a really deep offense across the board. Maybe not as top heavy, but still more depth than usual. But if you can't protect Patrick, it's going to be a brutal year. So I think it's a no-brainer offense with the Chiefs.
And Corey, what about for your opinion on the Broncos? What are you concerned with?
Yeah, so Matt kind of touched on the offense a little bit as far as his concerns with that. So I'm actually gonna go the defense, and here's why. You don't know who's gonna stay. Like, is Greenlaw gonna stay healthy? You don't necessarily know what Barron's gonna be able to do, right? And as far as Denver wasn't very good when they needed it the most to get off the field last year in third downs, especially when you get to even like the third and longs, right? Just because you didn't have those guys. And then look at the Bengals game last year, right? Like, I mean, not fair for Riley Moss to be kind of picked on. And Matt and I were pretty hard on Riley Moss after that game, and even kind of so forth into the postseason. And it's probably kind of an overreaction on our part, maybe. But I mean, put on the tape, it's there. T. Higgins did everything he needed to do, and Denver couldn't get that stop when they needed to. And the offense held their own. Bo Nix held his own with the offense against the Bengals. So the defense, I get it. Everyone talks about their defense being super like loaded. True, but none of these guys have. You don't know what Greenlaw's going to do. You don't necessarily know, is Barron going to be that guy that's going to be your number 2 corner opposite, or are they going to slide him into the slot? So there's a lot of questions, and I need Vance Joseph to go into games and not be scared. I think too many times last year he would call a game scared, and then there's certain games where he'd be super aggressive, and it's like, if you're aggressive, be aggressive. Like, if you're going to lose aggressively. I just think there was times where he was kind of lacking on his defensive calls. I want this defense. They're fast. They have good edge rushers, Nick Benito. They have Jonathan Cooper. Jonah Ellis held his own in his rookie season. I need to see more out of Vance Joseph. So again, I know I've talked the defense up. I know I've gotten a little ahead of myself before the season's even started. On paper, it does look good, but at the same time, get off the field when you need to. Quit giving. I mean, you're making yourself tired, right? And you're not really putting your offense in a very good position. That at times when they would get down 10-0 right away, and then again, vice versa, the offense didn't help the defense out in some of those situations either. So, but just for conversation's sake, I'm going with the defense.
All right, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you for answering. So for the Raiders, I'm probably going to side with the offense because, look, as much as we've added to it through the draft, a couple of free agency signings, and everything seems great, obviously Brock Bowers and Geno Smith, I think what I'm concerned with is the last time that we had this type of excitement on the offensive side was, I think it was 2022, which is the first season that we had Josh McDaniels. We had just signed Jacoby Myers. This is our first year that we had brought in Devontae Adams to be paired with Derek Carr. And we thought we had Darren Waller still, he hadn't retired yet. We thought we were going to run through the AFC because we had an offensive minded head coach. We had all these pieces, still had Josh Jacobs in his final year, and we fell flat on our face. And I'm afraid that we've gotten Genty, we've gotten Besh, we've gotten Brock Bowers. We got all these players to fall on our face. And I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. I'm a little apprehensive about Chip Kelly because I think he's a good coordinator, but I'm curious to see, like, from his time in UCLA, from his time at Ohio State, did he learn his lesson from being in Philadelphia? Did he learn his lesson from being, a head coach of the Niners that went, 2-14, I think, at his tenure? So I'm curious, like, can Chip Kelly put this offense on the field and it be respectable? What up, Mike? But I think that's what I'm ultimately concerned with for my Raiders is offense. Like, it looks great on paper, but Pete Carroll being a little bit of a driver, also to, like, can that offensive line protect Geno Smith and everything like that? So I'm going to side with the offense. And the reason why is because the only constant that the Raiders have had since 2021 has been the defense with Patrick Graham. Like, our defense has been solid when we're in games, but when obviously we lose and we're behind, then we fall behind. That defense can't catch up. The defense cannot score us the points that we need. They can only do their best to make stops to give the offensive chance. But when the offense can't, capitalize on those opportunities, then we can't blame our defense. That's the offense. The offense isn't putting it in the end zone. So my answer for my team would be the offense. So Corey, thank you for letting me answer that question, dude. Go ahead and land the plane.
I think the one big difference from that 2022 team to this team you're talking about, and again, it may not seem like much, but it's everything. Josh McDaniels to Pete Carroll.
Yeah.
I don't think Pete Carroll allows. Are they going to be as good as maybe I've been hyping up the offense about being slept on? Maybe not.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a hard time believing that Pete Carroll is going to let a team just fall on their face. And I think that's a huge difference. I can understand the skepticism as a Raiders fan, right? We've all been in that era of our teams at some point where we're just like, we don't care what people are saying. We don't care what we did. I still don't trust anything because they've never given me a reason to. So I get it. But I just have a hard time thinking Pete Carroll's going to let a team fall flat.
And I don't know how you guys are going to do it with the number 2 running back, Ashton Genty, but anyways.
You guys really should have taken Hampton at 7.
Yeah.
At 6, you mean? We should have traded. In fact, according to Tim, we should have traded into the top 3 and should have got Hampton.
No. You should have traded back and got Hampton.
Oh, okay.
Right. So I like those questions, guys. I know Timmy started last week or the last episode with his question at the beginning. Cody's ending this episode with his questions. How about next time on the next episode we get Matt, you're going to end the show with a question and you're going to come up with the questions to ask the group. Again, guys, this has been an overwhelming success tonight. The chat's been awesome. You guys have been fantastic. We can't thank you guys enough for jumping on here and helping interact with all of us. Again, the numbers look good on our screen as far as the viewership has gone throughout the 2 hours we've been on here. Who knows? Are we going to spring another episode on you guys in the next few weeks? Probably. Just be ready. That's just kind of how this goes. Again, if you're a sponsor and you're looking for a show to sponsor, just come find us. We're open to it. If you want us to put a segment on this show, if you want to sponsor a segment on this show, we are open to it. So I'm going to end it on that. If you guys have any other comments before we get off here, I'll open the floor.
Yeah, I'll go ahead real quick. And I just want to say that, Corey, you sat there and said, will we do another show in the next couple of weeks? Probably. After episode 1, the 5 of us, we're sitting there texting back and forth. And we were just like, that was a lot of fun. When's the next episode? Like, can we go ahead and do the next episode? We were that pumped and we were that excited that we did that show. And then this was just like a last minute thing. We were all just kind of texting, and Corey initially had the plan that he was going to do the show tonight about the schedule release. And then Cody just kind of chimed in and was like, yeah, I think I'll do it too. And then I was just kind of sitting there. I was like, well, it sounds to me like we just need to get the boys back together and AFC Roundtable it. And that's how this episode came together, guys. We can't thank you enough. We appreciate all the likes, the comments, the shares, the following across all platforms. We greatly appreciate it. And I'm going to end this with one last thing. If you want to talk ball, we will answer the call.
All right, Matt, you got anything to end on, buddy?
Yeah, hey, thanks everyone for tuning in. Again, thanks for having me on the show. It's awesome when the 5 of us get together and just talk ball. It's been great. For anyone that does have a podcast, I don't have one on my own. I always feel weird inviting myself, as the Shovicks know. But if you guys would like me on your show, I'm open to it. Just message me. That's kind of me inviting myself. So that's as far as it goes.
First off, everyone watching, everyone who's going to listen to this tomorrow and the next day, blow Matt's inbox up and tell him to get his own damn YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And put his Broncos post on damn YouTube. This dude would be a superstar. He does great stuff. I love all the posts he does. He's very creative in how he does it. Don't let him fool you. He is really good at this. So we brought it up to him the other night. Get your own YouTube channel. Start working on getting your own show.
Yes,
damn it, you would do perfectly fine on that. And we love having you on our AFC West Roundtable. Cody, last thoughts.
So to piggyback off all this, and Tim with his kind words, and Matt, you definitely need to get on the podcast train, dude. It's time to get on there, man. Like,
Yes.
I don't know. You act like you're busy with a kid and a family, man. Let's you got commitments over here. So no, but in all seriousness, guys, I mean, this kind of feels like we're on the ground floor or something. So very much like what Corey was saying about sponsors that want to get on it. Everyone hits themselves in the head for, missing out on Apple or Google. This is your time. So don't sleep on us. And, you'd be surprised on what we're going to come up with next. So stay tuned for the next episode.
Yeah, no, just appreciate all of you, Timmy included, for joining in, doing this. It's always a good time. I can't wait to see what we're able to do this next time. So
we might just have a Timmy and Austin segment. We might just Matt, you get the beers ready. We'll
I got you. Yeah.
Get the hot dogs, the beers.
So we're gonna have a segment sponsored by like Fight Club for like a 5-minute segment.
Let's go.
So that's gonna wrap it up tonight, everyone. Again, we appreciate the numbers. We're up from last week. I can see that already. So we're off to a fantastic start with our first 2 episodes of the Roundtable. Again, like I said, we will be back. We all do have our own shows, so make sure you guys go find all of us on Instagram, YouTube, X, TikTok, everywhere. We're everywhere. Come find us, and we'll interact with all of you guys. We will do that for sure. So until next time, we'll see you guys.